Chapter Leaving Home. Taiju was sitting on the side of a little road in the village, looking at the blue sky in a daze. Taiju was not his real name, but due to having a weak body since he was little, his father was afraid he wouldn't be able to keep him alive and gave him this traditional nickname. His real name was Wang Lin. The Wang family was considered a big family name in the area, a family of carpenters. The Wang family was well known in the area and owned a number of shops that sold wood products. Taiju's father was the second son of the family. He was born from a concubine, therefore, he couldn't take over the family business, so he left the house after he got married and settled in this village. However, due to his father being a skilled carpenter, Taiju's family was pretty well off, not having to worry about food or clothes. They were well respected within the village. Taiju had always been very intelligent since he was little. He loved to read books and had a lot of ideas. Almost everyone in the village agreed that he was a prodigy. Every time his father heard someone praise Taiju, the wrinkles on his face would fade, and he would reveal a happy smile. His mother cared for him a lot. One could say that he had grown up in his parents' love. He knew that his parents had high expectations of him. Other children his age were all working in the fields, while he sat at home reading. As one reads more, ideas come naturally. He yearned for the world outside of the village. Taiju raised his head, looked at the end of the road, let out a sigh, closed his book, got up and walked home. His father was sitting in the courtyard. Holding a pipe, he took a deep breath and said, "Taiju, how goes your studies?" As Taiju walked through the door. Taiju muttered a few words as he passed by. His father shook the ashes out of his pipe, rose up, and said, "Taiju, you have to study properly. Next year is the district exam. Whether you have a future or not will all depend on this exam. Don't end up like me, who will spend my entire life in a village. Honey, you complain about this every day. If you ask me, our Taiju will definitely pass the exam." Taiju's mother carried over some food and set it on the table. She gestured at the two to come and eat. Taiju responded with a sound, then sat down and casually ate a few mouthfuls. His mother affectionately looked at him and passed him the few pieces of meat there were. "Dad, is fourth uncle almost here?" Taiju asked as he raised his head. "Calculating the time, it should be within these next few days. Your fourth uncle is more successful than your father. Hey, Taiju's mom, have the mountain dishes prepared for fourth uncle all been packed?" The moment Taiju's father mentioned fourth uncle, there was a hint of sadness on his face. His mom nodded and emotionally said, "Taiju, your fourth uncle is a very good person. In these past few years, it was all thanks to him that your father's wood carvings have stayed at a good price. If you are able to achieve success, don't forget to repay your fourth uncle." As Taiju's mom was talking, the sound of a horse was heard outside the door. Following the sound of the horse-drawn carriage, a hearty laugh could be heard. Second brother opened the door. Taiju was surprised. He immediately rushed to open the main gate. He saw a strong middle-aged man with bright eyes standing outside. He called out Taiju's name, laughed, and rubbed Taiju's head. Smiling, he said, "Taiju, I only haven't seen you in half a year and you have grown taller again." Reveal character. Taiju's parents immediately stood up. His father, smiling, said, "Fourth brother, I figured it was about time you arrived. Hurry inside. Taiju, why haven't you gotten a chair for your fourth uncle yet?" Taiju happily agreed. He hurried back into the house, took out a chair, and placed it next to the dining table. He carefully wiped it with his sleeves while looking hopefully at the middle-aged man. The middle-aged man winked in his direction and jokingly said, "Taiju, since when were you so diligent? I remember the last time I was here, you were not like this." Taiju's father glanced at Taiju and said, "This little rascal was just inquiring about when you would arrive." The middle-aged man saw Taiju blushing and laughingly said, "Taiju, your fourth uncle hasn't forgotten his promise to you." After he finished speaking, he took out 2 books and placed them on the table. Taiju excitedly cheered, then flipped through the books. He could barely contain his excitement. Taiju's mom kindly glanced at her son and said to the middle-aged man, "Fourth brother, your older brother is always thinking of you. This time, you should stay for a few days." The middle-aged man shook his head and said, "Second sister-in-law, there are many matters to attend to in the family these days. I must head home early tomorrow morning. After this busy time, I'll come back and see you guys." He gave his second brother a regretful look. Taiju's father sighed, saying, "Don't listen to my wife. Properly pack the goods tomorrow. The family's matters are more important. We can meet next time." The middle-aged man looked at Taiju's father and asked, "Second brother, Taiju is 15 years old, yes?" Taiju's father nodded and said, "After this year, this little rascal is going to be 16. In a flash, more than 10 years has quickly passed by. He looked at his son dotingly. The middle-aged man pondered for a while and said, in a serious tone, "Second brother, second sister-in-law, I have something to tell you. The Hengyue sect is taking in disciple. This year, the family has 3 recommendation slots, and I received one of them." Taiju's father was stunned and said, with a pale face, "Hengyue sect. But the Hengyue sect is full of immortals." The middle-aged man smiled, nodded, and said, "Second brother, it is that very immortal sect. Our family is still a prominent one in the area, and has the qualifications to recommend potential disciples. You know my boy, he can really study, but is good with swords and knives. I doubt the immortal sect will take my son. This spot is really precious. I know Taiju has been very smart since he was little, and has always loved to study. He might have a chance." Taiju's mother felt delighted and said, "Fourth brother, this. The middle-aged man rubbed Taiju's head and said, "Second brother, second sister-in-law, from my view, let this matter be settled. Let Taiju try. If he really gets accepted, it is his fortune." Taiju confusedly looked at his parents and his fourth uncle. He wasn't able to understand what was going on. "Immortals? What are immortals?" Taiju softly and hesitantly asked. The middle-aged man's face turned serious. Looking at Taiju, he said, "Taiju, immortals are those who can fly in the sky, and are simply not something US mortals can understand." Taiju grew curious of immortals. Taiju's father excitedly got up, pulled Taiju's mom, and bowed to the middle-aged man. The middle-aged man quickly pulled him up and sincerely said, "Second brother, what are you doing? My mother died early. If it wasn't for second brother's mother taking care of me, I wouldn't be here today. Taiju is my nephew, and this is the least I can do." Taiju's father started crying. He heavily patted the middle-aged man's back, nodded his head, and sternly said to Taiju, "Remember, Wang Lin. Never forget what your fourth uncle has done for us, or else I will not consider you my son." Taiju's heart trembled. Although he was ignorant towards immortals, he could tell from parents' expressions that they viewed this matter with great importance. He knelt in front of his fourth uncle and kowtowed a few times. The middle-aged man pulled up Taiju and praised him. "Good child, you get ready and I'll pick you up at the end of the month." That night, Taiju went to bed early. He could still hear sounds from his father and fourth uncle. Father was very happy. Even though he rarely drank, he had to drink a few cups with fourth uncle today. Immortals, what were they? Taiju's heart was very excited. He knew in his heart that this was an opportunity to see the outside world. Fourth uncle left early the next morning. Taiju and his parents saw him off at the village entrance. On the way back, he noticed that his father looked a lot younger. His eyes were filled with hope. The expectations in his eyes were much greater than the time he wanted Taiju to pass the district exam. There was no secret in the village, even if it was how many pups a dog gave birth to. Everyone in the village would hear the news. Soon, everyone in the village knew the news from Taiju's mother, and all the neighbors came in to visit. Everyone's eyes were different from before as they looked at Taiju with envy and jealousy. The Wang family gave birth a good son. He has been accepted as a disciple of the Hengyue sect. I have watched this child, Taiju, as he grew up. He was very smart since he was little. Now, he is a Hengyue sect disciple. He has a very promising future. Taiju, you have great talent. When you are successful in the future, don't forget to come back and visit." These talks filled Taiju's ears, acting like Taiju was already a Hengyue sect disciple. Every time his parents heard it, they couldn't stop smiling. The wrinkles on their faces had lessened greatly. Whenever Taiju would walk alone in the village, all of the villagers passionately asked him about this and that. There were even people who told their kids to follow Taiju as an example. Half a month passed by quickly. The news of Taiju becoming a Hengyue sect disciple quickly spread. All of the villagers nearby came to see Taiju. Everyone who came by brought gifts. Taiju's parents couldn't reject them, but as they left, Taiju's parents planned return gifts. According to Taiju's father, "Our son will be an immortal in the future, so he can owe any favors. We will prepare return gifts for all the visitors." Soon the Wang family learned that Taiju's fourth uncle gave his son S spot to Taiju. One after another, they came to congratulate him. Taiju's father attached great importance to the visiting relatives, as many of them used to look down on him in the past and drove him out of the family all those years ago. Now that they were all coming to visit him, he swept away his sorrows. He and Taiju's mother discussed a bit and decided to properly entertain everyone. They spent a fortune to hire the village teacher to write invitations to send to their relatives. The village teacher didn't want money, but wanted Taiju to acknowledge that he grew up studying in his care. Taiju had no objections as this was the truth. After the invitations were sent to most of the Wang family members, there were so many people that Taiju's dad had to move the party's location to the village square and set up a feast. The villagers helped entertain the guests. As they spoke to each other, they would praise Taiju endlessly. Taiju's dad brought his wife and son to the village entrance to personally greet the guests and introduce each relative to Taiju. This is your third grandfather. When father left the family, your third grandfather secretly helped a lot. Taiju, you have to remember to repay his kindness, Taiju's father said, as he helped a white-haired old man. Taiju quickly agreed. The old man looked at Taiju and said, "Lao heir, time passes by so fast. Your son is already this big. He has better prospects than you." Taiju's father's face was full of radiance. He smiled and said, "Third grandfather, Taiju has been smart ever since he was a kid. He was bound to be better than me. Take your time. Wife, help support third grandfather." Taiju's mother quickly helped the old man walk toward the feast. Seeing the old man leaving, Taiju's father let out a snort and said to Taiju, "This old guy looked down on your dad and forced me away. Now that you have a good future, he comes to congratulate me. He is just that kind of relative." Taiju cluelessly nodded and asked, "Is fourth uncle coming?" Taiju's father shook his head. "Your fourth uncle sent a letter. He wants to be able to come back until the end of the month." At that moment, another carriage arrived at the village entrance. A plus-year-old man came out. He looked at Taiju's father and said, "Lao heir, congratulations." Taiju's father's face turned complicated and said, "Big brother." The old man's eyes swept across and looked at Taiju. He smiled. "Lao heir, so this is your son. Not bad. Maybe he will really be selected." Taiju's father frowned, stretched, and said, "Taiju might not have much merit, but he is smart and loves to read books. He is bound to be selected." That is not necessarily true. When immortal sects look for disciples, there are very strict requirements. "I see this kid is very dumb. Going is a waste of time," said a haughty voice from the carriage, as a 16 or 17-year-old boy stepped out. The young boy looked very pretty. He had eyebrows like scimitars, a face like Guan Yu, and eyes full of disdain. Taiju's father glared at him, and Wang Lin gave him a deep look, but didn't say anything. The old man's face changed color and shouted, "Wang Zhuo, how can you be so rude? This is your second uncle and your little brother Wang Lin. Why haven't you greeted them?" He turned to Taiju's father and said, "My son's speech is ugly. Lao heir, don't mind him." But as he was talking, he suddenly turned and said, "But Lao heir, it is not a simple matter for these immortals to accept a disciple. It is a matter of fate. This time, it's because the Heng Yue sect was very interested in my son that our Wang family was given 3 spots, including his." Taiju's father snorted and said, "If your son can do it, then my son will definitely be selected." The youth laughed, not caring about the old man's words. With disdain, he said, "So you are second uncle? I suggest you don't be so optimistic. The way of cultivation is very complex, and only 1 in 10,000 people can even learn it. How can he compete with me, who, while not being an official disciple yet, was personally selected by an immortal teacher?" The old man's face flashed with a color of pride, scolded the youth, and brought him toward the feast. "Taiju, don't worry. Even if you are not selected, it doesn't matter. There is always the district exam next year," Taiju's father earnestly said, after suppressing his anger. Wang Lin confidently whispered, "Dad, don't worry. I'll be selected." Taiju's dad gently patted his son's shoulder. His eyes were filled with rays of hope. One after another, they greeted a lot of relatives. Taiju's father took him back to the feast. In front of them was a bustling scene of people celebrating. Taiju's father cried out, "My dear relatives, my fellow villagers, I, Wang Tianshui, am not a very cultured man and don't have much to say, but today, I am very happy, because my son has a chance to become a Heng Yu sect disciple. This is the happiest moment of my life. I won't say more, but thank you all for coming." He raised his cup and drained it of the wine within. "Lao your son has been very smart ever since he was little. He will definitely be selected like Wang Zhu's son and become an immortal. Second brother, having a son like Taiju, you have not lived your life in vain. In the future, all you have to do is wait to enjoy the good fortune. Taiju, you must make your father proud. This time, no matter what, you must enter the Heng Yu sect." There were numerous bright scenes everywhere. The sounds of celebration came from all sides, but there were many people like Wang Zhuo's father, who on the surface was giving his congratulations, but in his heart had always looked down upon his brother and his brother's son. He looked at his son, and then at Taiju. He felt very dissatisfied. Fourth brother's actions were outside of his expectations, but as the immortals weren't T-blind, there was no way Taiju would be selected. People passed by, one by one. Taiju's father pulled Taiju around from table to give a toast and introduce various unknown relatives to him. Today, Taiju's father drank a lot of wine. He was never this well regarded. The feast lasted until it was very late, and everyone started to head home. Before leaving, and still with a look of contempt, Wang Zhuo, while no one noticed, whispered to Taiju, "Little fool, you won't be selected. You don't have the ability." He left with his father as he displayed a smile full of contempt. After returning home, Taiju lied on his bed. He secretly decided in his heart that he must be selected no matter what. Half a month passed by quickly. Today, Taiju's fourth uncle arrived in a carriage. Taiju's parents quickly welcomed him inside. The middle-aged man washed his face and hurriedly said, "Second brother, second sister-in-law, I can stay long this time. I am taking Taiju and leaving. The Heng Yu sect will arrive to pick up the potential disciples tomorrow morning." Taiju's father was stunned. A trace of sadness appeared on his face. He firmly said, "Fine, Taiju, follow your fourth uncle. If you are selected, study dutifully at the Heng Yu sect. However, if you aren't selected, don't worry and come back home." Taiju, not wanting to leave his parents, nodded heavily. His mother took out a parcel from the room and lovingly said, "Taiju, listen to your fourth uncle and don't cause any trouble. The outside is not the same as home. You must have patience. Mother has prepared you some new clothes. Also, there are some of your favorite baked sweet potatoes. Mother will miss you. If you are not selected, just come back." As Taiju's mom was talking, tears began appearing in her eyes. Taiju had never left the village ever since he was born. This was his first time leaving. Fourth uncle emotionally said, "Taiju, you must be selected to make your parents proud. Second brother, second sister-in-law, the family will have a big celebration in a few days, so I am too busy today. Tomorrow, I'll pick you guys up. The results for the 3 candidates should be out by then." He quickly pulled Taiju onto the carriage, whipped the horse, and set off. With tears in their eyes, Taiju's parents stared at the carriage as it quickly disappeared into the distance. Taiju has never left home before. Will he be bullied? Taiju's mom said, while biting her lip. Her eyes were filled with sadness. He has grown up and has to deal with his own fortune. Taiju's father picked up his pipe and inhaled deeply. More wrinkles appeared on his face. "Good night, everyone. We will meet again tomorrow. Just wait a moment. Remember to like the video." Chapter Down the Cliff. For the next few days, Wang Lin relied on the birds that were sucked into the cave and splattered on the wall for food. He spent most of his time carefully observing the stone bead. Every time dew appeared, he would smear it on his arm. He did this until his arm was fully recovered. He knew this dew was extremely valuable, so he collected some in the skull of a bird. On this day, he sprinkled the dew he had been collecting throughout the past few days on a piece of cloth and carefully warped the bead in it. After making sure it wouldn't fall off, he arrived at the entrance to the cave when the suction force stopped. He used his teeth to tear apart his clothes and tied them together, then tied one end to a rock and the other around his waist and slowly climbed down. Wang Lin had climbed down about 5 or 6 meters when his hand slipped. His body dropped quickly, but luckily his clothes were tough and gave him time to swing toward the cliff and grab onto a branch before the cloth tore. Cold sweat glistened on Wang Lin's forehead. When he looked down, he estimated that he was still 20 meters up. With one hand, he grabbed a branch, and with the other hand he grabbed the cloth and tied the cloth onto the branch. Only then did he feel relieved. He carefully moved back toward the cliff edge and then started to descend again. When he was 10 meters from the ground, the cloth had stretched to its limit. Wang Lin jumped down without a second thought. His clothes couldn't bear the weight and began to split apart, but still helped lighten the fall. Wang Lin felt the wind caress his face on the way down, as well as branches breaking under him, slowing down his fall. He positioned his body just right as he landed, toes pointing downward, and rolled into a ball as he touched the ground. The ground felt like a stone knife that pierced his body, creating various deep cuts, especially a cut on this leg. It was so deep that you could see the bones. Wang Lin, with blurry vision, gasped for breath. He struggled to put the cloth that was around his neck that contained the bead into his mouth and sucked some dew that was in the cloth. After a while, he struggled to sit up and with trembling hands took the cloth and squeezed it above the wound on his leg as a few drops of dew came out. A cool feeling emitted from the place the wound was. After having done all this, Wang Lin fell to the ground and prayed for no beasts to attack him before he recovered. At that moment, he heard a shout from the distance. "Taiju, where are you?" Wang Lin was stunned. He listened closely and realized that it was his dad's voice. Without time to think, he used all the strength left in his body to shout, "Dad!" "I am here." A rainbow approached from the distance. It circled around the cliff near Wang Lin for a while, then descended. A sword of light came down and dissipated, revealing a Heng Yu sect disciple with Wang Lin's father in his arm, frowning at Wang Lin. When Taiju's father saw his son, he immediately burst into tears. He ran up to Wang Lin and hugged him. While crying, he said, "Taiju, what were you thinking? Why did you have to be so stubborn? Have you ever thought about how your parents would live if you died?" Wang Lin was stunned. After thinking about it, he realized his dad misunderstood and thought that he was trying to commit suicide. After looking at himself and seeing how battered his body was, he couldn't help but let out a bitter laugh. The Heng Yu sect disciple, surnamed Zhang, gazed over Wang Lin. He looked to the cliff above and saw the clothes that had been torn earlier. With a few leaps, he climbed up until he reached the cave. He felt a force try to suck him in and showed a surprised expression. However, he quickly recovered and jumped down like the force was no big deal. He said, "Lowly, your kid wanted to suicide but was saved by this natural suction force from the cave. Now that Wang Lin has been found, let's go back to the sect and have the elder make a decision." The Heng Yu sect disciple rolled his sleeves, grabbed the father-son duo, and quickly left that place. After a while, they arrived at the foot of the mountain of the Heng Yu sect, then climbed the steps and approached the peak. Coming back here like this caused Wang Lin to have mixed feelings. At the peak, there were many people with ugly expressions. The disciple Zhang quickly went up to one of them and whispered something. The old man's brow wrinkled and said with a cold voice, "Since the person was found, send him to the guest room to reunite him with his mother." In the room, when Wang Lin's mother saw her son, she immediately burst into tears and ran up to hug him. After hearing from his parents, he finally knew what was going on. When he ran away from home, his parents returned to the Wang family to find his fourth uncle. The three of them feared for his safety, so they went to find Wang Zhuo's father. With the pressure of his fourth uncle, Wang Zhuo's father reluctantly got the family members to help ask the Heng Yu sect to help. This is the first time the Heng Yu sect has encountered something like this, opted to ignore it at first. However, the reason why Wang Lin ran away from home was due to not being accepted into the Heng Yu sect. Although the Heng Yu sect didn't care about the life and death of a mortal, if he were really to die, and the news of it spread to the villages nearby, parents want their kids to try to enter the sect. Concerned about the future, they sent out a few disciples to search the area. Wang Lin's father was still worried, so he followed them. And that's what caused the scene before him. After a while, someone sent in some medicine. Taiju's mother hastily thanked the person who delivered it and carefully fed it to her son. This was indeed medicine produced by an immortal sect. The effect was extremely good. After drinking it, Wang Lin felt that he had recovered quite a lot, and his wound began to ache a lot less. Wang Lin's parents were unceasingly bestowing words of comfort upon him. He wanted to explain everything to them, but he was unsure if they would believe him. At that moment, in a Heng Yu sect hall, Several elders were sitting around listening to the disciple, Zhang, describe how he found Wang Lin. At the end of the long table, a red-faced man said disgruntledly, "What does the life and death of a mortal have to do with an immortal like me? Look at the other immortal schools. Which of them are like us who send people to find a kid who tried to suicide because he wasn't T-selected? This is shameful." Next to him, a middle-aged man with a cold face said, "What Elder Ma said is correct. In all the sects within the state of Zhao, only our Heng Yue sect is like this. But if that kid really died in our mountain range, parents will fear their children would all try to suicide if they were rejected. Then, who would dare to send us their children?" An old man in robe took a sip of tea and said slowly, "In reality, isn't tea it, because our Heng Yue sect has declined, that we must select disciples that are suitable for cultivation from mortals. If it was 500 years ago, who would care what the mortals think?" Finally, an old man full of wrinkles sighed and said, "If this youth tried to suicide once, he could try to suicide again. Bah, to prevent this issue from continuing, let us just make an exception and accept him as a disciple." After he finished speaking, he gave a side glance to the middle-aged man. 4,000 words in a major chapter. Read an extra 1,000 words, wishing for the like button on the video to help. Chapter 99. The Stone Bead Changes. As for Wang Lin, after the pressure disappeared, his expression darkened. Yi Zi's eye had left the moment the pressure appeared. There must be something going on here, he thought. Although Yi Zi's eye had left, the corpse sect was even more on alert right now. After thinking about it, Wang Lin thought that this might not be a good opportunity, so he spread out his divine sense. But just as his divine sense touched the walls, it was blocked. Only the holes in the wall didn't block him. But the holes were filled with yin energy, and were very deep. Even after Wang Lin went more than 100 meters into the hole, he still hadn't found anything strange. However, the yin energy became even more powerful, to the point where his divine sense couldn't withstand it anymore, and was showing signs of collapsing. He pondered for a while. He didn't act rashly, and firstly withdrew his divine sense. He calmed his heart, then formed a few seals as all of the spiritual energy in his body began to work. Then, a layer of deep blue light appeared on his body. After the light appeared, it formed a whirlpool that sucked in all of the white gas. All of the disciples that were cultivating inside the corpse sect had just recovered their senses from the pressure. They were all in shock as they could clearly feel the yin energy decreasing while Wang Lin cultivated. Because the yin energy came from a mysterious place deep underground, they were all very surprised. When Wang Lin saw the endless stream of yin energy coming, he quickly stopped absorbing it and started to digest the yin energy in his body. While he was cultivating, he suddenly felt the area where he held the bead turn cold. He quickly took out the bead and found that countless drops of liquid had gathered on it. Wang Lin was immediately surprised. It has to be said that the one weakness of the heaven-defying bead was that there was no spiritual energy inside it, so he had to drink spirit liquid to keep cultivating inside. But the effect of the spirit water decreased with usage. Only spirit water from dew maintained its effectiveness. But collecting dew was too slow. That's why he hadn't been training inside the bead much after he started cultivating the underworld ascension method. However, he had still been collecting dew to use every now and then. Now, for some odd reason, the heaven-defying bead suddenly produced this much liquid. He could clearly feel that the spirit liquid contained yin energy, and the amount of spiritual power wasn't any less than that of spirit liquid made with dew. Wang Lin took a deep breath. Without a word, he started to gather the liquid. After he finished collecting all of the liquid, his eyes lit up as he began to cultivate yin energy again. Immediately, white gas appeared. This time he kept his divine sense on the stone bead and noticed that some of the white gas entered the stone bead, causing several drops of liquid to appear on it. Wang Lin revealed a joyous expression. Just like that, he collected a gourd of spirit liquid. The gourd had completely changed color. It was now a dark blue that emitted a ghostly light. Even when Wang Lin touched it, he felt a bit cold. If someone else were to touch it, just an instant of contact would allow the yin energy to invade their body and freeze their blood, muscles, and bones. He carefully put away the gourd inside his bag of holding. As he took out another gourd, his gaze suddenly locked onto the stone bead. There was originally only one leaf on the stone bead, but now there was a second leaf that was symmetrical to the first leaf. Wang Lin's eyes lit up. According to Situnan, The bead needed to absorb the 5 elements of metal, wood, water, fire, and earth. Only after that would the bead be truly unlocked and acknowledge an owner. The water element was already full, which was why the clouds on the bead had disappeared. The leaf indicated that it needed wood element. But wood element materials were hard to find. When Wang Lin checked the market in Teng Family City, he found a few, but their prices were all extremely high, and he didn't know how to make the bead absorb them, or even if those materials were enough to complete the bead, so he gave up on them. But looking at it now, there was an extra leaf on the bead. This caused Wang Lin to go into deep thought. After carefully looking at the bead for a long time, Wang Lin's eyes lit up. He was no longer in a rush to leave, at least not until the bead finished evolving or until he figures out the secrets of the bead. But there were still things that needed to be done. Wang Lin put away the stone bead and his hand formed a seal that shot out a beam of blue light toward the wall. When the blue light hit the wall seemed to melt. A hole opened up in the cave. Wang Lin went through the hole and went the originally planned route. The tunnel wasn't too long, so it didn't take much time for him to reach the other cave. Just as he came out of the tunnel, he suddenly stopped as he saw Mu Rong sitting there, cross-legged. Mu Rong stared at Wang Lin and said, "Ancestor, please go back. The first ancestor left an order stating that no one may leave their personal cave. Ancestor, please don't make it hard on me." Wang Lin's gaze swept the room as he nodded and took a few steps back. He turned around and headed back toward his own cave as he thought to himself that the situation had changed. Wang Lin understood that the corpse sect had strict rules, but no matter how strict they were, there was no need to place a mid-stage foundation establishment expert outside his room. Before, when he arrived, he clearly remembered that the person in that room was a 13th layer QI condensation disciple. Thinking about this, Wang Lin went toward another exit inside his own cave. After a while, he came out of the tunnel into a smaller cave. But just as he took a few steps out, he immediately stopped. On the floor of the cave sat a youth dressed in black. He coldly looked at Wang Lin without a word, and behind him was a green coffin. Another mid-stage foundation establishment cultivator, Wang Lin's pupils shrank as he backed up and left. It wasn't until he went really far that the youth's divine sense finally stopped locking onto him. And so, Wang Lin checked all 11 tunnels connected to his cave. Aside from the 5 that were sealed, the other 6 all had foundation establishment cultivators guarding the cave, and one of them even had a late-stage foundation establishment cultivator. Wang Lin returned to his cave with a heavy heart. He sat down and began to ponder. All of this was definitely not a coincidence. It was not hard to guess that this was arranged by Yi Zizai to prevent Wang Lin from leaving. Wang Lin frowned. Of the 6 people, besides the one late-stage foundation establishment cultivator, Wang Lin was confident that he could defeat them even if they had a corpse puppet. But this was only the first layer of caves. On the way here, there were over 30 caves. As a result, he is unable to leave in a short period of time. So before he would even be able to make it to the last cave, he would be stopped by the late-stage foundation establishment cultivator, or even a core formation cultivator from the corpse sect. Wang Lin couldn't help but let out a smile. He wished that Situnan was awake right now. If Situnan was awake, it would be much easier to leave by utilizing Situnan's experience. Wang Lin called Situnan a few times inside the bead, but gave up after not getting any response. But Wang Lin knew that if he wanted to leave this place, it was not something he could do in a short period of time. His actions earlier were only to check out the situation. Both of his hands formed a seal and closed the cave. He began to cultivate yin energy once more. Not only did he have the bead, but his divine sense also entered the holes in the wall. Wang Lin didn't split up his divine sense, but moved all of it as one into one of the small holes. As a result, the range of his divine sense increased greatly. Originally, with his divine sense, his range was 1 kilometer, but the interference from the cave wall was extremely strong, so it was trapped inside the cave. As Wang Lin cultivated, the white gas quickly gathered toward him. His divine sense was like a thin thread traveling through the tunnels and the walls. Although the tunnels were very long, their complexity was even more amazing. Soon, he arrived at the farthest he had ever probed, which was about 100 meters away from Wang Lin's cave. After his divine sense reached there, it became difficult for it to go any farther as waves of yin energy rushed forward. If it wasn't for the fact that Wang Lin was cultivating the underworld ascension method, which made him very resistant to yin energy. His divine sense would have collapsed under one wave of this yin energy. Nevertheless, the speed at which he was probing had slowed down by a lot. After an unknown amount of time, his divine sense had reached 300 meters into the tunnel. The white gas that was rushing toward him came in waves until it almost formed a wall that blocked his path. Wang Lin clenched his teeth and smashed through this wall with his divine sense. The scene before him caused the Wang Lin who had been sitting there cultivating with closed eyes to open up his eyes. Brothers, have you not yet hit the like button for the video? Wish that the like button for the video would be hit. Chapter 996 arrived. Large amounts of cultivators had gathered outside the East Demon Spirit Sea, waiting for it to open. When Ling Tianhu heard the man in purple, there was a flash of ecstasy in his eyes. However, he didn't ask more. He occupied a position once he got close and looked at the vortex below him. When no more people arrived, Ling Tianhu frowned. He withdrew his gaze and looked into the distance. Not just him, even the old man on the gourd frowned as well. He looked into the void as if he was waiting for something. Only the Alzer remained neutral as he quietly waited. Time slowly passed, and the cultivators waiting around gradually began to talk. Some of the well-informed ones know what was going on, but most didn't. They were all confused about what these powerful cultivators were waiting for. Just as the chatter got louder, the Alzer suddenly raised in his head and looked into the distance. He revealed a look of intrigue. He is here. Several breaths after the Alzer noticed something, the man in purple also looked into the distance. He had already heard everything about Wang Lin from Ling Tianhu. He somewhat admired Wang Lin in his heart. Someone who has been able to last against the All-Seer for this long is definitely not weak. After the man in purple, it was Ling Tianhu, the old man on the gourd, the beautiful middle-aged woman, and the man in black who no one dared to approach. The four of them looked into the distance at almost the same time. After them, it was the remaining old monsters and a few other cultivators. A strange whistling sound came from the distance, gradually catching everyone's attention. A moment later, the cultivators all gasped when they saw the shocking scene before them. A giant more than 1,000 feet tall was rushing toward here. Giant Demon Clan Mount. Someone in the crowd immediately recognized this giant. This isn't an ordinary giant Demon Clan member. Look at the mark between his eyebrows. He is a royal bloodline giant Demon Clan member. There were many well-informed cultivators waiting outside the East Demon Spirit, and they immediately recognized Leiji's identity. It must be a powerful cultivator for him to own a giant Demon Clan mount. I just don't know who he is. This 1,000-foot giant Demon Clan member can clearly already use his bloodline ability. That makes the mount itself very powerful. A cultivator that can sit on it is not simple. Not necessarily. Perhaps this person has a good relationship with the giant demon clan, and his actual cultivation isn't too powerful. The appearance of the giant demon clan mount set off a huge wave among the surrounding cultivators, and they began to chatter. When the giant demon clan mount closed in, people were able to see who was riding it. Just one glance made them all gasp. At first they were able to see 4 people on the giant demon clan Mount's back. All 4 of them were famous around planet Tianyun. The 3 Chen brothers. The 3 Chen brothers are all at the Nirvana Scryer stage, and they always move together. They often attack at once, so even a late-stage Nirvana Scryer cultivator would have a headache dealing with them. Why are the 3 of them on this giant demon clan mount? Could this mount belong to the 3 of them? There is also that big-headed cultivator next to them. That person is unfamiliar, but he is also at the Nirvana Scryer stage. 4 Nirvana Scryer cultivators. It has to be said that any one of them could set off a huge wave among the majority of cultivators here. There must be some secret behind them showing up together. When more and more cultivators clearly saw the people on the back of the giant demon clan mount, the chattering stopped, and they were all shocked. Even Ling Tianhu and company were startled, and their eyes shined brightly. As Leiji got closer, they saw a redrobed elder behind the 3 Chen brothers and big head. His body was very large, as if he was a mountain of flesh, and was shocking to look at. His early-stage Nirvana cleanser cultivation spread out and shook the minds of everyone with lower cultivation levels. Master Hollow Wind. Master Hollow Wind was very famous around planet Tianyun. The moment he appeared, many people recognized him. Master Hollow Wind unexpectedly became Wang Lin's helper The eyes of the old man on the gourd lit up ever so slightly. If it was only the 3 Chen brothers and the big-headed cultivator, they were no threat to him. However, Master Hollow Wind was different. Beside Master Hollow Wind was a beautiful woman, and her eyes were filled with intelligence. Her aura was very fierce, as if it was a pair of scissors that could cut all divine sense extending toward them. Another early-stage nirvana cleanser. The surrounding cultivators were in an uproar once more. However, not far behind the woman in silver, Sichu Nanes' unruly figure and his sneer that belittled the world shocked the surrounding cultivators once more. A third nirvana cleanser cultivator. I know this person. He just became famous recently on planet Tianyun. The Pink Palace Lord, Sichu Nan. The beautiful woman frowned and showed a look of disgust. Although she didn't live on planet Tianyun, she has heard of his notoriety. She couldn't understand why a powerful nirvana cleanser cultivator would do such a thing. The Alzer was calm as he looked at the people on the giant demon clan mount. It was impossible to tell what he was thinking. The shock the 3 nirvana cleanser cultivators created was simply too big, far bigger than the 4 nirvana scryer cultivators. 4 nirvana scryer cultivators and 3 nirvana cleanser old monsters. Just who has such connections to get these 7 to help? Lei Ji slowed down for a bit before Wang Lin's figure appeared before everyone. He wore a snow-white robe. His hair flowed in the air, and his gaze was indifferent. His eyes contained the sun and moon as he calmly stood between everyone. The gazes of all the cultivators gathered on him. The moment Wang Lin appeared, the star-marked sable on the shoulder of the purple-robed man suddenly raised its head, and there was a strange light in its intelligent eyes. Its body trembled, and just as it was about to move, Wang Lin looked over with a casual smile and clasped his hands at the man in purple. The man in purple smiled and nodded before placing his mind on the star-marked sable on his shoulder. He had raised this sable ever since it was small and really liked it. The star-marked sable's strange reaction just now had caught his attention. However, at this moment, the star-marked sable seemed to return to normal and showed no signs of abnormality. This made the purple-robed man feel somewhat confused. Wang Lin's expression didn't change under everyone's gazes as Lei Ji closed in. He clasped his hands at the Alzer and company before he calmly said, "Greetings, Alzer, Sword Saint, and fellow seniors. There were some delays after obtaining the invitation, so I was a bit late." Ling Tianho stared at Wang Lin, and there was a trace of dread in his eyes. He could never forget that ray of light. If it wasn't for the fact that he had escaped quickly and had speculated that the other ray of light had absorbed enough origin energy, he wouldn't be standing here today. The way he looked at Wang Lin had changed, and he didn't want to provoke Wang. He smiled and shook his head. "Fellow cultivator Wang is being polite. There is no need to call me senior. Just call this old man Ling Qianho." After he spoke, an uproar was set off among the cultivators. Looks of disbelief landed on Wang Lin. Ling Tianhu was a powerful cultivator whose fame was second only to the All-Seer. There were very few people worthy of being called fellow cultivator by him. At this moment, just this one fellow cultivator from Ling Tianhu shocked the minds of the surrounding cultivators. The All-Seer looked at Wang Lin. From beginning to end, his expression didn't change at all, as if the matter several months ago didn't occur. He nodded slightly and slowly said, "No harm." Wang Lin's eyes narrowed as he clasped his hands and greeted the old man on the gourd and the beautiful middle-aged woman. Then he smiled at the man in black in the distance and clasped his hands as a greeting. The man in black also clasped his hands at Wang Lin, but his expression was still cold. "Everyone is here, so let us open the East Demon Spirit Sea." The Alzer waved his sleeves and 7-colored light gathered to form a token. This token was only the size of his palm, but it gave off a 7-colored glow. As everyone's vision was blurred by this bright glow, the token flew toward the vortex. This was not a normal opening of the East Demon Spirit Sea, so that powerful tide that pulls in treasures from everywhere wasn't present. Instead, as the token fell into the vortex, a reverse vortex appeared. This reverse vortex quickly expanded and a black hole opened up. The aura of the demon spirit land that Wang Lin was familiar with came out from within. By opening the 4 celestial caves, can the 5th cave be opened? This old man will go first and await the good news from everyone else. The Alzer was covered in a 7-colored glow as he entered the black hole while standing on the trident. Wang Lin's gaze swept past the trident. He had already noticed the trident. The familiar aura coming from it made him certain that this was a treasure refined by 2C. 1. When the place opens normally, there is a wave of treasures being pulled in from all over the place. Thank you all for the support, especially for the large golden gifts from Leo. Leo is so touched he could cry. By the end of this month, Leo's video is facing a challenge in the popular rankings, hoping to get more likes for the video. Chapter 997, Master Void. This was a treasure 2C was very satisfied with, but unfortunately, no treasure spirit had formed. In order to perfect it, 2C hid it in a planet and turned it into 3 mountains. He wanted to use the mountain spirit of the planet to form a treasure spirit for this trident. He planned to retrieve once he mastered the royal bloodline spell, but after he left, he never came back. When he saw the trident enter the black hole with the ulcer, he felt melancholy. This melancholy came from the regret in 2C's memories. Ling Tianhu and the man in purple turned into rays of light and turned toward the black hole. However, the two of them paused. Just as Wang Lin was preparing to enter the black hole, he suddenly turned around and looked into the stars. The old man on the blackboard and Situ Nan were a step ahead of him as they looked into the distance. A ripple appeared, and an old man appeared from inside the ripple. In just one step, he arrived before everyone. Ling Tianhu and the man in purple quickly stopped. The man in purple revealed a look of respect and bowed. Sun Shan greets Grand Elder. Although Sun Shan was an elder, he was not a member of the Alliance Elder Group. At this moment, his respect came from the bottom of his heart. He obviously deeply respected the old man that had appeared. Junior greets Grand Elder. Ling Tianhu also revealed a respectful expression. With his personality, there weren't many people who he genuinely respected. Wang Lin's pupils shrank. The old man had merged with the world to move here. This old man also gave off an aura that shocked Wang Lin. This aura was very different from the All-Seer S. If the All-Seer was an unfathomable ocean, this old man was like a large mountain that pierced the heavens. His powerful aura spread out, causing those weaker cultivators to cough out blood and immediately retreat. Situ Nan's eyes lit up and he muttered, "Nirvana Shatterer!" He pondered for a moment before he sneered. His eyes shined due to his arrogance and how he looked down on everything. If I want to have a good time in this world, I need a cultivation that can suppress the world. Nirvana Shatterer, this old man has been too lazy. The old man wore a golden robe and his hair was half black and half white, and he was giving off an ancient aura. He looked at Ling Tianhu and revealed a smile of admiration. How long has it been since we last met? Ling Tianhu reminisced about the past and respectfully said, "Junior, doesn't he remember? It has been far too long." The golden-robed old man let out a sigh and slowly said, "When you and the Ulcer were qualified, I personally brought the two of you into the brilliant void Holy Land. Now, tens of thousands of years have passed. One of you has become an elder of the Alliance that even I dread, and the other's cultivation had also reached such a level." Ling Tianhu pondered, but the reminiscence in his eyes became even stronger. "When I received your jade a few months ago, I was debating if I should come. I didn't want to come, because the war with Al-Heaven was getting serious and my senior brother Xianxia can make an avatar. However, considering what happened between you and the All-Seer, I decided to come to end the matter between the two of you." As the old man spoke, there was a hint of decisiveness and profoundness in his gaze. Ling Tianhu's mind trembled as he looked at the old man and said, "Thank you, Senior Master Void. Let's go. I have heard about this demon spirit land, but haven't gone there before." "Let's go and see." The old man waved his sleeves and looked at the beautiful middle-aged woman in the distance. His gaze revealed goodwill when he looked at the woman in pink, then he entered the black hole. Ling Tianhu and the purple-robed man followed him into the vortex. Wang Lin pondered a bit before his eyes lit up, and he moved with Situ Nan, followed by Master Hollow Wind and the woman in silver. Behind them were the 3 Chen brothers in Big Head. They all flew toward the vortex. Lei Ji's figure shrank until he was only a big fellow, and he followed everyone into the vortex. The old man sitting on the gourd and the cold man in black both entered the black hole. The beautiful middle-aged woman hesitated as she looked at the woman in pink next to her. The woman in pink smiled like a rose and softly said, "Aunt Xia, you can relax for this trip to the demon spirit land. Xishuan has a treasure gifted by senior sister. It is more than enough to keep myself safe. What's more, didn't T's second sister send Elder Master Void here as well?" The beautiful middle-aged woman pondered a bit and nodded. She then led the four women around her into the black hole. Xianxia revealed a complex expression. When Wang Lin appeared, she was constantly looking at him. Now that she thought about how they would be in the demon spirit land together, she thought, I wonder if he still remembers me. After those people entered, the surrounding cultivators all rushed toward the black hole. However, there were too many people, and only some of them were able to get in before the black hole suddenly stopped its reverse rotation and disappeared. Some of the cultivators were only halfway into black hole when the vortex disappeared, so their bodies collapsed and their miserable screams echoed. This caused the cultivators behind them to quickly retreat. The black hole disappeared with a hint of blood. It was as if a large door had closed, preventing anyone from entering. The surrounding cultivators all scattered with regret. There were some that were reluctant and stayed for a few days before finally leaving. The East Demon Spirit Sea returned to its peaceful state. Inside the Demon Spirit Land, a fiery sun hung in the sky. The heat wave moved with the wind along the earth. The corpses on the ground smelled of decay, attracting many vultures that hovered over the corpses, absorbing the death aura. This was only a corner of the fire demon country. Looking at the entire country, it was covered in corpses. Under this heat wave, they decayed even faster, and the wind blew away their clothes, revealing the black skin underneath. A large war was spreading across the fire demon country as the soul refining tribe attacked. All of the powerful people scattered across the country fell. If they didn't surrender, they died. The capital of the fire demon country, where one of the 9 ancient demons once lived, was now the last force left. This place was occupied by one of the elite armies of the fire demon country. It was called the Fire Demon Spirit Army. They had 2 commander-in-chiefs and 8 demon generals holding the fort. Although the Fire Demon Spirit Army had suffered heavy losses compared to the other forces, they were the most powerful. This allowed them occupy the capital and hold on to what remained of the fire demon country. At this moment, the army of the soul refining tribes surrounded the capital of the fire demon country. There were countless people floating in the sky with several big flags around them. A dense, black fog shrouded the area. The sharp cries from the soul fragments never ended and swept across the earth. The wailing of the mournful souls became the only sound left in the world. There was a stone statue within the soul refining tribe army outside the gates of the capital of the fire demon country. There were several tribe members carrying it. Those that were carrying the statue were filled with pride. For them to be picked out from the millions of tribe members to carry the Ancestor-S statue was glory that only came once in a lifetime. There was an old man in the sky filled with majesty. He wore a black robe, and there were dozens of large flags beside him that formed a black whirlwind. Demon General Charming Wood and Golden Scorpion, are you two going to surrender? The old man's voice was like a blast of cold wind. The moment his voice appeared, a sharp whistle came from the black whirlwind around him. Just the old man's voice wasn't bad, but the millions of soul-refining tribe members surrounding the capital all roared at the same time. Are you going to surrender? The roar of millions of people at once was indescribable. It was as if the world was trembling, and no thunder could compare to it. This caused the minds of the remaining soldiers inside the capital to tremble. Some of them felt something explode in their minds, and they passed out while bleeding from their orifices. Oyanghua, don't you push us too far. An angry voice came out from the wall, then a big fellow in armor appeared. This armor looked like a scorpion, and his eyes were bloodshot. Hatred filled his eyes as he rushed out, but not toward Oyanghua. Instead, he charged toward the black stone statue among the crowd. Even if I die, I am going to destroy this thing. The big fellow was too fast. He arrived next to the statue in an instant. He raised his hand and smashed down with a roar. However, what was strange was that all the surrounding soul-refining tribe members revealed looks of mockery. Even Oyanghua sneered and didn't try to stop him. The moment the big fellow's hand smashed down, an extremely cold voice echoed in his ears. You dare to harm the statue of my lord? Die! An extremely ordinary man moved along with that voice. This man wore a black robe and had an extremely cold expression. If anyone knew Wang Lin, they would be shocked, because this person's temperament was about 60% to 70%, similar to Wang Lin's. This man walked forward and causally threw a punch. At this moment, countless soul fragments came out of his body and entered his fist, creating a storm. This powerful storm quickly smashed into the big fellow. The big fellow coughed out a mouthful of blood and the armor on his body broke inch by inch. There was also the sound of his bones breaking coming from inside his body. The strongest member of the soul-refining tribe, 13! The big fellow let out a bitter smile as his body shattered. He was already out of power, and now that he had received a seriously injury, he immediately died. Ouyang Hua laughed. Then he pointed at the capital of the fire demon country and said, "Soul!" After he spoke, the millions of tribe members took out their soul flags and boundless souls rushed out, covering the entire capital of the fire demon country in black fog. This black fog slowly closed in on the capital. Surrender a woman wearing blue armor on the wall of the capital of the fire demon country's side. At this moment, the fire demon country became the capital of the soul-refining tribe. The soul-refining tribe had become one of the 9 powers of the demon spirit land. The black statue would be placed where the ancient demon statue was and become the spiritual foundation for the soul-refining tribe. Just as 13 raised his feet to walk toward the capital, his body trembled violently and his cold expression collapsed. It was replaced with excitement he hadn't felt for hundreds of years, and he suddenly raised his head. Ancestor has returned. As time goes on, a heavy dizziness is setting in. My mind can't cope. Tomorrow I will continue to burst forth with all my might. In 12 hours that will be doubling the likes for the video, hoping that everyone is ready with 2 likes for Leo. Thank you. Chapter 998. Yao Shiyu's Hatred. 1. At this instant, the sky above the demon spirit land went through a shocking change. Layers of vortexes appeared in the sky as if they were going to tear the heavens apart. This sudden change caused the inhabitants of the demon spirit land to panic, and they all looked at the sky. The vortex spread in the sky until it almost covered the entire sky above the demon spirit land. The vortex rotated rapidly like a storm that descended from the heavens. In the demon spirit land there was a deep gully in the wood demon country. This area was very remote, and the depths of the ravine were filled with moss. The area was very humid, and in the early morning, it was usually covered in dense fog. At this moment there was faint mist that still remained but slowly disappeared under the sun. As the mist gradually dissipated, a pool of water at the bottom became visible. This pool was like the surface of a mirror. There weren't any ripples at all. However, when the vortex appeared, ripples appeared in this pool of water, and something slowly came out from the center of the ripples. At first it wasn't possible to see what it was, but as it became more clear, it was obvious that it was a face. This was a demonic face. That handsomeness was not something a person could have, especially the dark light coming from his eyes. He quietly looked at the sky and revealed a demonic smile. "You finally came. I have waited a very long time for this day." At this moment, far on the other side of the demon spirit land, there was a grassy plain. There were some flowers on this plain, and before one even got close, they could smell the fragrance of the grass. This fragrance was very faint, but it had a very strange effect. Whenever someone from the demon spirit land smelled it, they would feel relaxed. As a result, over time, many tribes appeared on this plain. The soul-refining tribe had expanded here as well, but what was strange was that the soul flags would immediately lose some of their power here. It was as if the soul fragments inside didn't dare to come out. If forced to come out, the soul fragments would quickly dissipate one by one. As a result, the soul-refining tribe gave up on this place. If one looked from above, they would find this grassland to be very ordinary. However, if a restriction expert saw this, their forehead would immediately be covered in cold sweat. This place was filled with very large restrictions, and there was an unknown amount of restrictions here. If they were activated, they had the power to destroy the world. No one knew that there was an extremely ancient transfer array under this grassland. If one traced its origins, it would go back to before the celestial realm collapsed. Celestial realm formation. Through this formation, along with a special method and a token, you could enter one of the 5 celestial caves. 4 of the 5 celestial caves in the demon spirit land had been found. As for the 5th cave, no one knew where it was. Only by opening the inner part of the 4 other caves would the 5th cave be opened. The celestial cave connected to this transfer array was filled with celestial spiritual energy, and nothing inside it was ordinary. However, although it felt like the celestial realm, it looked very empty with a hint of coldness. One would cold and lonely just by standing in there. This celestial cave was zigzag-shaped, and was filled with pavilions. There was a young man sitting inside a towering pagoda. He was very handsome and gave off the aura of a celestial. He was holding scroll made of bamboo. There was a teacup on the table next to him. The heat that came from the tea turned into flowers in the air before slowly dissipating. This man would occasionally drink of the teacup, and his expression was very calm. However, the moment the vortex appeared, the man placed down the scroll and looked into the distance. It was as if his gaze could penetrate the void and see the changes outside. The person who spoke was not him, but a woman who walked in from outside. She was very beautiful but a bit skinny. She had an oval face and beautiful eyes that were very charming. She wore a light blue dress with white pants that had blue embroidery on it. From a distance, she had slender legs. Although she looked weak, it made her more feminine. The man smiled as he looked tenderly at the woman and said, "We have waited so long. I hope we can succeed this time." The woman sat down on the side as she gently looked the man and laughed. "We planned for so long. As long as we are careful, I believe there will be no accidents." The two of them smiled at each other, and the feeling of a couple filled their hearts with warmth that lingered. Even this empty cave no longer felt cold, as if a warmth had spread. This cultivation couple was the couple that never left the cave after they came. Wang Wei and Hu Wan. How is he doing? Wang Wei picked up the bamboo scroll. He was very handsome, and didn't he look old at all, as if he was really a young man. However, the pride hidden deep inside his eyes showed the glory he must have had countless years ago. Hu Huan chuckled and gently said, "This sword spirit is very determined. He has already reached the 8th layer of the immortal spirit method you gave him, and is about to enter the 9th layer. If there are no accidents, he should break through soon." Wang Wei's eyes were filled with admiration as he nodded. "Is that so?" Then I didn't help him in vain as he spoke. He became a bit bleak and shook his head. "But I am still puzzled. Is Qing Shuang not dead? Otherwise, how did she reform the Rain Celestial Sword and make him the Sword Spirit? Unfortunately, he refuses to speak. And I don't want to hurt Qing Shuang's feelings, so it would be inconvenient to search his memories." Hu Huan softly said, "Perhaps little sister Qing Shuang is still alive." The moment the vortex appeared, the pool in the ravine and the celestial cloud cultivation couple weren't the only ones to respond. A huge change occurred under the palace of the Wind Demon country. This was the holy land of the Wind Demon country. There was a vast expanse of caves that resembled a honeycomb underground, with the capital of the Wind Demon country as the center. Every single cave had many tunnels that linked them together. Eventually, all of them would lead to the large cave under the imperial palace. These caves were filled with skeletons that were blackish purple and gave off death aura. The moment the death aura appeared, it would be sucked away by the tunnels connected to the caves. All the death aura in the countless caves throughout the Wind Demon country would all lead to the cave under the imperial palace. This cave was very large, at least 10,000 feet wide. At the center of the cave was a towering pillar, and a woman sat on top the pillar. This woman's appearance was extremely terrifying. There were numerous hideous scars on her face. It was impossible to count how many wounds there were at a glance. Although those wounds had closed, blood rushed into them when she cultivated, so they had become red. It was as if countless centipedes were crawling on her face. Not only her face, but even her arms were covered in these hideous scars. There was a sea of death aura under the pillar the woman was sitting on. Some of the death aura would float up around her and enter her scars. Every time this happened, the woman's body would tremble as if she was facing unbearable pain, but she would always clench her teeth and endure it. Wang Lin, Yao Shizue had to endure all this pain because of you. I hate that I can eat your flesh to avenge my father. As long as I can kill you, what does this pain count as? If I can kill you, so what if I gave up my appearance? The woman's eyes were filled with monstrous resentment. She could never forget the sense of helplessness she had for her father's crisis when she awakened in the demon spirit land. Then she suddenly felt a pain in heart, letting her know through her blood connection that it was likely that her father didn't survive. At that point, her hatred for Wang Lin almost reached a peak. In order to get revenge, she gave up everything. She knew that in order to increase her cultivation level, she needed help from the ancient demon here. She worked very hard and experienced hardships and humiliation that were like nightmares. In the end, she obtained the recognition of the ancient demon of the Wind Demon country. She entered here and began an inheritance. She could never forget the moment she accepted the Wind Demon's inheritance. That demonic voice that echoed in her heart. I can give you strength, enough power to let you get revenge. However, the price is that your divine sense and soul will slowly be erased until you become my body. I am willing as long as I can get revenge. Yao Xishui took a deep breath and began to absorb this death aura, causing her enough pain to wish she was dead. As she absorbed it, she raised her right hand, which was completely blue, and her fingernails emitted a cold glint. After taking a deep breath, she mercilessly cut open a wound on her left arm. Intense pain came from her arm, causing her body to tremble, but her expression was indifferent as she had long grown accustomed to the pain. At this moment, endless amounts of death aura entered the wound on her arm. As the endless death aura continued to enter, the wound gradually closed until it formed a scar. Wang Lin, I'll never let you go. The cry from her soul was like a storm that filled the heavens. The second watch has come. So thankful for the praise from the new clan leader. Last night Leo started from the starting point, immediately saw a new follower. I'm ecstatic. Thank you everyone. Chapter 999. Yao Xishui's Hatred 2. At this moment, Wang Lin walked out from the vortex in the sky. The moment he appeared, his mind trembled, and he suddenly looked toward the Wind Demon country. He vaguely felt a monstrous resentment toward him. This feeling appeared only for an instant before it disappeared as if it was never there. Behind him, Situnan and company appeared. They floated in the air and looked down. Aside from Master Hollow Wind, this was the first time everyone else had come here. Although the three Chen brothers belonged to a rank country, they previously weren't interested in the demon spirit land. Now that they arrived, they couldn't help but look around. After returning to a familiar place, Wang Lin felt regretful. His first thought wasn't to go to the celestial cave, but to check the soul-refining tribe. Back then, he had to flee, so he was in a rush. Thinking about it now, he felt regretful. The soul-refining tribe was created to complete the last wish of Master Dun Tian. I wonder if it still exists. And there is also 13. Wang Lin couldn't forget the loyal 13 that followed him. In his life, he had only met one person as loyal as 13. Thinking about 13, another person appeared in Wang Lin's mind. Hu Pao! 13's loyalty and Hu Pao's betrayal became a stark contrast that was engraved in Wang Lin's mind. He couldn't forgot how he slaughtered into an army of more than 100,000 in the Demon General's city to save those two people. At that time, he didn't know that Hu Pao had already betrayed him, but even if he did, he still would have done it. He couldn't forget what he said that day while looking at the sky as if he was trying to prove his Tao. There are things in this world that are meant to be and some that aren't. Cultivators seek immorality and to escape from fate. Normally, they would avoid disaster and welcome the heavens. 13 and Hu Pao have no relationship with me. I went against the will of the Demon General, meaning I went against the Demon Country. This was not worth considering for those that only cared about the benefits. I am not a gentleman or a villain. I am not sincere or hypocritical. It's just that there are certain things in this world I must do. However, I, Wang Lin, walk within this world not to seek to follow the Tao of the heavens. I seek to have no regrets in my heart. From this point of view, I am not suited to become a cultivator. However, there are certain things I must do. If I don't save 13, then what Tao am I searching for? Wang Lin let out a sigh as he looked at the familiar world. He slapped his bag of holding and a palm-sized compass appeared in his hand. This was something that was necessary to enter the fourth cave. After handing this to Situnan and explaining the details of releasing some of the restrictions, Situnan looked meaningfully at Wang Lin. He understood Wang Lin enough to know that Wang Lin was going to meet some old friends. As a result, he didn't waste any time. With his cultivation, along with Master Hollow Wind, the woman in silver, the three Chen brothers and Big Head, it wouldn't be hard to break these restrictions. The real difficulty would likely be at the final restriction. Situnan opened the token according to Wang Lin's method. They all disappeared and entered the celestial cave to begin breaking the restrictions by force. There were countless restrictions inside the celestial cave. Only by breaking all of them could they enter the core, and that was their target. Unlike the All-Seer and Ling Tianho, who had already broken all the restrictions in their caves, Wang Lin's progress was lacking. Moreover, Wang Lin still had the token to the cave in his hands. As long as he was in the demon spirit land, he could enter the cave at any time. With Wang Lin's current cultivation, he just had to make some slight changes to the token. so that Sichu Nan and company wouldn't be attacked by the spirit of the cave. After solving this problem, Wang Lin pondered for a bit. Then his divine sense slowly spread out. With his current nirvana scryer cultivation, he easily covered the entire demon spirit land with his divine sense. Just as Wang Lin's divine spread out, his divine sense inside the black stone statue being worshipped by the soul-refining tribe suddenly released a black light. This black light was filled with endless coldness, and a mysterious force shot into the sky. The moment it touched Wang Lin's divine sense, they integrated together. The black light from the statue gradually became stronger until it covered more than half of the sky above the fire demon country. Countless soul-refining tribe members stared dumbfoundedly at the ancestor's statue. It wasn't certain who reacted first, but some people immediately knelt down on the ground. Then almost all the soul-refining tribe members knelt down with excitement in their eyes. The ancestor's spirit has manifested. The ancestor's spirit has manifested. Roars spread like rumbling echoes across the city. Ouyang Hua's eyes revealed look of disbelief, and he looked at 13. At this moment, 13 was trembling as he looked into the sky. He had a vague feeling. Ancestor has returned. Ouyang Hua took a deep breath and ecstasy flashed through his eyes. He respected Wang Lin from the bottom of his heart, but even more than respect, there was fear. It was precisely due to this fear that even though the soul-refining tribe continued to grow larger, he didn't dare to rebel at all. Wang Lin's eyes shined brightly and revealed a strange light. He naturally saw the soul-refining tribe with his divine sense and found that it had expanded greatly. This wasn't important. What made him feel disbelief was the mysterious power that had just integrated with his divine sense. Wang Lin had cultivated for over 1,000 years and encountered many different kinds of powers. However, he had never encountered one like this before. He couldn't tell what kind of feeling it was. But the moment that mysterious power integrated with him, he felt countless images flashing through his mind. Without exception, all these images were the soul-refining tribe worshipping the statue. They were all filled with unimaginable fanaticism. It was as if as long as the statue gave an order, they would do it no matter the cost. Even if they lost their lives, they would have no regrets. This kind of terrifying frenzy even moved Wang Lin. It was the worship for millions of soul-refining tribe members toward this stone statue for the past hundreds of years that created this strange force that even Wang Lin didn't understand. While pondering, Wang Lin took a step and disappeared. When he reappeared, he was above the capital of the fire demon country. Standing here, he was able to see the scene of millions of people kneeling. Speaking of millions of people might make it sound like it's not a lot, but looking at it in person, he saw an endless sea of people cover the ground. There were flags sticking out everywhere that danced in the wind, and the wails of the soul fragments filled the world. The moment Wang Lin appeared, all of the soul fragments let out sharp cries as if they had encountered their true master. Ouyang Hua's body trembled and revealed excitement that he hadn't shown in hundreds of years. He stared blankly at Wang Lin and said, "Ouyang Hua greets Ancestor. I welcome Ancestor's return." After he spoke, some people almost immediately looked up and saw Wang Lin. Almost every single tribe member who saw Wang Lin felt a buzz in their brain. They had no doubts as they immediately recognized this person as the person they had been worshipping for hundreds of years, their ancestor Wang Lin. All of this was because of the stone statue. It was a carving of Wang Lin. Ancestor. It really is Ancestor. Ancestor has returned. Ancestor didn't abandon us. Ancestor has returned. Bursts of shouts filled with surprise and frenzy soon rumbled like thunder. Millions of people became excited at once, and their shouting caused even the earth to tremble. Even the clouds in the sky had to retreat. "Welcome, Ancestor." It was unknown who said it first, but eventually, millions of soul-refining tribe members shouted at once. Even Wang Lin's ears buzzed. Even with Wang Lin's mental strength, he was startled. He could clearly feel white gas come out of these people and go to the stone statue at the center of the capital. The stone statue absorbed it all, becoming even more smooth and giving off a demonic feel. The soul-refining tribe members' gazes were all filled with excitement that even shocked Wang Lin. 13 rushed through the crowd and knelt down before Wang Lin. Although his body was trembling, his voice was the loudest it had been in hundreds of years. 13 welcomes the return of Ancestor. 13's words ignited the enthusiasm of the countless tribe members. In addition, More white gas floated out from everyone and entered the black statue. Soul flags began to wave as if a black sea had suddenly appeared. The soul fragments flew out from the flags and shrouded the entire fire demon country in a black fog. The number of soul fragments was unimaginable. Looking at the people of the soul refining tribe, Wang Lin found some of them familiar, though he couldn't remember their names. They were obviously elders that were around when he was here last time. I have returned. Wang Lin's voice slowly spread and fell from the sky into everyone's ears. Although it was only 3 simple words, these 3 simple words were like bolts of lightning falling from the sky. Everyone within the soul refining tribe cheered. As the soul refining tribe cheered, Wang Lin gradually descended and landed on the wall of the capital of the fire demon country. He had returned here once more after hundreds of years. The new chapter is late, but it has over 500 more words than the previous ones. I hope not to be hit. Wishing for the like button for the video. Chapter 1000. The Strange Black Statue. Wang Lin's return caused a frenzy among the soul refining tribe members. The fire demon country was renamed to the soul refining sect by Wang Lin. The soul refining sect had millions of disciples. If you were to count all the soul fragments gathered by the disciples, it would be an unimaginable number. It could be said that the soul refining sect wouldn't be weak, even in a rank cultivation country. Wang Lin looked at the sky and muttered, Senior Duntian, disciple has fulfilled the promise from back then. Although the method the millions of soul refining sect disciples cultivated wasn't complete, now that he had returned, he took out the complete methods without hesitation. Of course, the weakness Wang Lin left where he could take the soul fragments at any time wasn't changed. When all of the cultivation methods of the soul refining sect were passed down to the disciples, all of them entered a crazed cultivation stage. In addition, after hesitating for a while, Wang Lin left a copy of the 9-cycle celestial refining tactic he got from his 4th senior sister from the Purple Divine. This became the forbidden spell of the soul refining sect. If the 9-cycle celestial refining tactic was cultivated to the extreme, it was extremely powerful. Although it was useless to Wang Lin, it was like a celestial spell for the disciples of the soul refining sect. In addition, Wang Lin made a big decision. After placing down many restrictions, he entered the treasure pavilion. 1. Under the cover of countless soul fragments. The treasure pavilion was sealed by Wang Lin inside his body. He could easily enter it with a thought, so there was no need to take it out. Ever since he obtained it, he had only taken it out once. That time was right before he came here. He had set up a large amount of restrictions on Planet Water Spirit and opened it. It was all to gift Situ Nan a fortune. To this day, Wang Lin still remembered Situ Nan's dumbfounded expression when he realized what the treasure pavilion was and what it represented in the celestial realm. This kind of expression was very rare to see from Situ Nan. After he recovered, Situ Nan's eyes shined brightly. Even at night, his eyes shined like the sun, revealing the excitement in his heart. Celestial spells were split into low, middle, and high quality. There were also top-quality celestial spells, but right now even a complete low-quality celestial spell could cause a catastrophe. The most widespread were incomplete celestial spells. Spells that were derived from these incomplete celestial spells were obviously weaker than the real thing. Only those powerful cultivators had the qualifications and strength to obtain complete celestial spells. However, complete celestial spells were too rare. There was no need to talk about complete middle-quality or high-quality celestial spells. They were enough to make any cultivator go crazy. Even cultivators at the Nirvana Shatterer stage would be shocked by this. If they found out that the top level contained celestial spells left by Celestial Emperor Baifan, they would go crazy as well. Instant create. After all, the treasure pavilion had preserved most of the celestial spells of the Thunder Celestial Realm. What is more, on the last floor, aside from Celestial Emperor Baifan's spells, there were also spells for Celestial Lords. It was a heavenly treasure for Nirvana Scatterer cultivators. If Nirvana Shatterer cultivators would be like this, there was no need to talk about Nirvana Scryer and Nirvana Cleanser cultivators. That was why Wang Lin was extremely cautious about the treasured pavilion. Situ Nan had obtained huge benefits inside the treasure pavilion. The ecstasy in Situ Nan's eyes let Wang Lin know that although Situ Nan's cultivation level hadn't increased, the celestial spells he obtained thanks to his talent would make Situ Nan a terrifying force for the enemy to face. During that time, Wang Lin selected a middle-quality celestial spell called Gather Spirit. After comprehending it, he used it trade for the three Chen brothers' help. Their eyes were red, and they agreed to help without any hesitation. At this moment, Wang Lin searched through the treasure pavilion and took out 4 low-quality celestial spells. The cultivation of the current disciples of the soul-refining sect was in an abnormal state. They had good control over souls, and their entire cultivation relied on the soul flags. That's why the celestial spells Wang Lin picked were all related to the souls. However, celestial spells weren't something they could cultivate. Wang Lin had learned the fundamentals of the spells before splitting them into various forbidden spells that were passed down. As for Ouyang, Wang Lin wasn't stingy. He took out a complete low-quality celestial spell called the Soul Refining Ascension to give Ouyang as a reward for his hundreds of years of hard work. It wasn't that Wang Lin didn't want to give Ouyang a middle-quality celestial spell, but Ouyang cultivation was too abnormal. If he used all 99 soul flags, he could battle an ascendant cultivator, but without the flags, his cultivation level would plummet. The soul refining ascension was already very difficult for Ouyang to cultivate. After all, it was a complete celestial spell. As for 13, Wang Lin spared no effort. He went into the celestial cave to find Lei Ji and returned after he obtained enough blood. 13 was soaked in Leijius royal giant demon clan blood, allowing his body to undergo a huge change in a short period of time. Although the pain was not something an ordinary person could withstand, 13 endured it all. In the end, after hesitating for a bit, Wang Lin's eyes lit up as he dropped a few drops of his own royal ancient god blood between 13's eyebrows. At this moment, 13's body trembled violently. Even with his mental fortitude, he couldn't withstand the pain. It felt as if something was devouring his body. After all of this, 13, who was reborn through the pain, exuded an aura like a demon god. The power of his body was strong enough to fight peak late-stage ascendant cultivators, and he was filled with endless potential. Just this wasn't enough, so Wang Lin took out a lot of treasures and melted them. Then he infused them into 13's body, like how he refined a celestial guard, but he didn't damage 13's soul. 13 endured the pain by holding on to his loyalty to Wang Lin, and after the countless treasures were infused, he had the body of a silver celestial guard. He could withstand the attack of an illusory yin cultivator. He also still had his consciousness, so he was very different from a celestial guard. After all, Wang Lin wouldn't refine 13 into a celestial guard. Wang Lin had a lot of emotion toward 13, as he had basically watched 13 grow up. In Wang Lin's heart, he had 2 disciples. The elder disciple was 13, and the other was Sei Qing back in Heaven. Wang Lin would not be stingy toward his own disciples, especially one so loyal. He chose a middle-quality celestial spell called Celestial Soul, divided it into 3 parts, and imparted them to 13. As long as 13 completely cultivated these 3 parts, he would be able to truly cultivate Celestial Soul. Aside from 13 and Ouyang, there were several other leaders that were allowed to cultivate the forbidden spells Wang Lin had especially prepared for the soul refining sect. Wang Lin didn't participate too much in the soul refining sect. He allowed them to develop on their own. After teaching them spells, Wang Lin took a majority of the treasures he had gathered and used them for the sect's treasure pavilion. He let Ouyang and company gift them to disciples that had contributed to the sect. After doing all this, Wang Lin completed a wish of his. Then he arrived before the stone statue without allowing anyone else to follow him. This black stone statue had already been moved to the valley behind the palace. Wang Lin wasn't unfamiliar with this place. He once came here and released ancient demon Beilu, allowing him to devour the ancient demon spirit here. The valley hadn't changed, and was same as several hundred years ago. Standing here, Wang Lin had an illusion that he had returned to hundreds of years ago. However, the statue that originally stored the ancient demon spirit was now replaced with a black statue. The black statue was a carving of Wang Lin. Looking at the statue, Wang Lin had the illusion that the statue was looking at him. It was as if this statue was alive. Why is it like this? Wang Lin's eyes lit up. He had asked 13 about this matter and knew that it was only a normal stone carved into the image of Wang Lin based on their memory. At the start, only people who knew Wang Lin could vaguely tell it was him, and no one else could recognize him. After all, they weren't tea craftsmen. The stone statue was extremely rough as well. 13 and Ouyang couldn't do much about it. They had made this carving to allow the ancestor to forever remain in their hearts, to allow this statue to become an existence like the statue of the ancient demons in the demon countries. However, the strange part was that, as time passed and the soul-refining tribe grew, the statue became smoother as countless people worshipped it every day. What shocked 13 and company was that not only was it no longer rough, it became smooth and began to slowly change. After hundreds of years, the statue that started out as a rough statue changed until it looked almost exactly like Wang Lin. Even his ancient aura from living over 1,000 years could be felt. 13 and company were very confused about this matter. They could only leave it as the ancestor's spirit. This stone statue made Wang Lin curious. There weren't many things that made Wang Lin curious, but he unconsciously wanted to get to the bottom of this matter. After all, this stone statue was too strange. Wang Lin frowned as he walked forward before the statue. He looked at the statue and then his expression suddenly changed. The feeling that the statue was looking back at him became instantly more clear at this moment. The surroundings weren't quiet. The cheers from the soul-refining sect came from the distance. However, to Wang Lin, the world was quiet, as if nothing but him and the statue remained. There was a flash of coldness in Wang Lin's eyes. Then his hands formed a sword, and he slowly pressed down between the eyebrows of the statue. 1. The place where you can get celestial spells. He took it from the Thunder Celestial Realm a while back. The end of the year is here, brothers. Give a like for Leo. You are listening to a completely free audiobook on the Leo Audio YouTube channel. If you enjoy the story, please like the video to motivate the channel. Support Leo with a cup of coffee through the description link or on the screen. If you want to hear any other stories, just comment and let Leo know. Thank you very much for watching the video. Chapter 1001, Second Avatar. 1. This item is ominous. This was the first thought Wang Lin had when facing this statue. His right index finger moved like lightning toward between the eyebrows of the stone statue. At this moment, dark light shined out from the eyes of the stone statue and formed a strange rune between its eyebrows. This rune released a black mist that contained a strange power. The power entered the rune and blocked Wang Lin's finger. Wang Lin's index finger touched the rune without any hesitation. A ripple appeared where he touched the rune. The moment the ripple appeared, the mysterious power that fused into Wang Lin's divine sense seemed to awaken and spread across Wang Lin's origin soul like black ink. There was a flash of coldness in Wang Lin's eyes. He had already thought that there was something strange about this black stone statue, and it was as he expected. He let out a cold snort, and the ancient god-leather armor around his origin soul gave off a burst of green light. At the same time, his ancient thunder dragon origin soul released a muffled roar. Countless thunderbolts appeared in the sky above the valley Wang Lin was in. It wasn't only this valley. At this moment, the entire sky above the fire demon country was covered by endless thunder. This sudden change caused the soul-refining sect members in the fire demon country to look up in confusion. As the thunder echoed across the world, not only the fire demon country, but the surrounding countries were covered in thunder as well. The countless bolts of thunder descending displayed the might of thunder. In almost an instant, more than half of the demon spirit land was shrouded in thunder. This sudden change caused the residents of the demon spirit land to panic. Even the demon generals and commander-in-chiefs were filled with fear as they looked up at the sky. They could vaguely tell that this thunder wasn't natural and was caused by a spell. Although all of this sounds long, it all only took a few seconds. With a roar of Wang Lin's ancient thunder dragon soul, all of the thunder that covered more than half of the demon spirit land rushed toward the valley behind the capital of the fire demon country. The flash of thunder caused a heaven-shattering rumble, as if the wrath of the heavens was descending to deal out punishment. If one looked from above, they would see countless bolts of thunder gather inside Wang Lin's body in the valley. Rumble, rumble, rumble. The continuous rumbles echoed as the bolts of thunder entered Wang Lin's origin soul. His ancient thunder dragon origin soul began to roar and started its battle with the black ink. Although the black ink was tenacious, thanks to the endless thunder, it was on the verge of collapse. After all, not much of this mysterious force had entered Wang Lin's divine sense. The moment that power first appeared, Wang Lin had surrounded it with origin energy. After constantly losing, the black ink rapidly retreated until it condensed into a dot. Just as it was about to leave Wang Lin's origin soul, the green light from the ancient god Leather Amor sealed all paths of retreat. Then all the thunder absorbed by his ancient thunder dragon origin soul was shot out in one blow. This attack landed on the black dot, causing it to collapse completely. All of this happened in an instant inside Wang Lin's body. There was a flash of coldness in Wang Lin's eyes as his right index finger pushed forward and the rune collapsed. The rune shattered into a shockwave that spread out, allowing Wang Lin's index finger to finally press down between the statue's eyebrows. The moment Wang Lin's index finger touched the statue, his peak mid-stage nirvana scryer cultivation, along with his powerful divine sense, rushed into the statue. I want to see exactly what this is. When Wang Lin's cultivation and divine sense entered, he felt an impact on his origin soul. What appeared before his divine sense was a strange land. This place was filled with white mist. It was almost a fog sea. Wang Lin only took a glance and recognized this white mist as the aura that come out of the heads of all the soul-refining tribe members when they worshipped the statue for the past hundreds of years. After letting out a cold snort, his divine sense spread out across this strange place. Then his eyes narrowed, and his divine sense locked onto something ahead. His divine sense and cultivation fused together to form an illusion of Wang Lin, and arrived at where his divine sense was locked onto. This was the center of the statue, so this statue's dantian would be here. The mist before Wang Lin was even denser here, and there was a figure sitting within the mist that could barely be seen. Although it was blurred by the mist, Wang Lin could clearly tell that the figure was exactly the same as him. Aside from the pair of horns on its head, after seeing the pair of horns, Wang Lin's eyes shined. Ancient demon. The ancient demon that was exactly the same as Wang Lin had its eyes closed and remained motionless. The slivers of the white mist around it would sometimes enter its body. Wang Lin's expression was a bit strange. Aside from the pair of horns, the ancient demon was almost no different from him. Even the cold and aloof aura was exactly the same, along with the trace of loneliness and over 1,000 years of Tao comprehension. Even Wang Lin found it difficult to distinguish it from himself. What exactly is going on? Wang Lin's eyes lit up as he stared at the ancient demon that looked exactly like him. He waved his hand and a gust of wind blew away all the mist around the ancient demon. Wang Lin slowly approached and noticed some key points. Ancient gods could absorb origin energy through god salves to increase their cultivation level. The ancient demons belonged to the same ancient order clan, so they had to have similar methods. It was obvious that the entire demon spirit land was built for an ancient demons to absorb origin energy. Ancient demon Beilu once said that he was split into 9 parts, and that's how the 9 countries came to be. The people of the 9 countries gradually changed under the teachings of the ancient demon and learned spells. Then the 9 demon countries slowly formed from there onwards. Each ancient demon spirit was the top existence in each of the demon countries. They absorbed demonic energy from the people here to slowly heal, hoping to break through their restrictions. Then they would devour the other demon spirits to turn back into a real ancient demon. Wang Lin's arrival and his cooperation with ancient demon Beilu caused a heaven-shaking change to this stalemate that still required countless more years to end. With Wang Lin's help, ancient demon Beilu left his demon country and successfully devoured the ancient demon spirit in the fire demon country. Beilu became the strongest out of the remaining 8 ancient demon spirits and obtained the power to leave his country. If there are no accidents, once he digests the ancient demon spirit he devoured, he will devour the other 7 one by one until he becomes a true ancient demon. Wang Lin didn't know if Beilu was successful or not, but after seeing this ancient demon that looked exactly like him, he knew Beilu hadn't completely succeeded. As a 5-star royal ancient god, Wang Lin could tell at a glance that this ancient demon wasn't complete. It was even weaker than one of the 9 parts from back then. To be more accurate, this ancient demon was only a remnant. A remnant of an ancient demon spirit also knows to absorb demonic energy to heal itself, Wang Lin sneered. He now understood that the white mist coming from the heads of the soul-refining tribe members was faint demonic energy. All of the members of the soul-refining tribe were born in the demon spirit land. After seeing the ancient demon, Wang Lin understood the reason. While pondering, Wang Lin arrived next to the ancient demon that looked exactly like him. The ancient demon's eyes were still closed, without any signs of awakening. Wang Lin directly pressed down between the ancient demon's eyebrows, and his divine sense entered the ancient demon to search its memories. He saw the originally sunny sky above the cloud demon country suddenly darken. A storm formed, and as clouds gathered, a blood-colored figure charged through the sky toward the royal 9-layer cloud demon tower. A sharp cry came out of the tower, and there was a hint of disbelief in this voice. The 9 spirits need to reunite into one. Only by becoming an ancient demon once more can we get rid of our regret. Cloud demon, we were originally one, and we have been separated for too long. Today, we will fuse once more. The name of the ancient demon will be Beilu. A demonic voice came from the blood shadow as it quickly charged into the cloud demon tower. A series of rumbles echoed across the world, and everyone inside the capital was sent into a panic. However, the rumble disappeared after a moment, but following that, the cloud demon tower collapsed. As it collapsed, a blurred demonic shadow flew out and was surrounded by a bloodlight. Eventually, it was devoured by the bloodlight, which then turned into Beilu. It has been so long, yet this cloud demon's cultivation level hasn't increased at all. What a waste! It's a disgrace to me as an ancient demon. Beilu let out a cold snort and disappeared. The cloud demon country collapsed as there was no ancient demon spirit left. However, 3 days after Beilu left, an extremely weak shadow flew out from the ruins of the cloud demon tower. It was filled with hatred and confusion as it carefully flew forward. The last 2 days of the month are upon us, wishing for the like button for the VIDEO. Right now, it's about doubling the likes for the VIDEO. Very grateful and will return the favor. Chapter 1002, Second Avatar, 2. If I had 100 more years, I could have completed the demon split spell. Unfortunately, this demonic sense is too weak, and the main body has been devoured. This demonic sense is like a tree without roots, and could dissipate at any time the cloud demon tower has collapsed, so I can no longer stay. I don't dare enter another demon country to absorb demonic energy. This demonic sense carefully flew forward. However, he was simply too weak, and could be wiped from existence at any moment. While he flew in the sky, he was slowly dissipating. In the end, he was about to collapse, and even his memories became blurry. He was about to dissipate completely. Just as he was about to disappear forever, he vaguely felt demonic energy below him. The soul-refining tribe was right below him. There weren't many soul-refining tribe members back then, only a few 100,000 people. Most of them were spread out, looking for places with soul fragments. Only a few tens of thousands of people remained in the tribe's lands. These people were all worshipping a black stone statue feverishly. Demonic energy came out of their heads and surrounded the area. The demonic sense of the cloud demon that had dissipated too much and was moving only subconsciously charged at the black statue. The moment it entered the statue, it seemed to become alive, and the surrounding demonic energy began to gather toward it. As time passed, the cloud demon slowly settled down in the statue. He had lost too many memories during his escape, and the rest became blurry. He was not even the original body and was just a sliver of demonic sense. All the demonic energy coming from the soul-refining tribe members' worship was filled with thoughts of a person called Wang Lin. At the start, he resisted it, but when the number of soul-refining tribe members passed 1 million, he gradually felt like his name was Wang Lin under the constant worship of the tribe members, that he was their ancestor. He spent hundreds of years with such thoughts. As the soul-refining tribe grew to millions, the constant worship made him completely abandon his past, and now he thought he was Wang Lin. As he was changed, the statue slowly changed into Wang Lin's appearance. He also became Wang Lin inside the statue. Wang Lin raised his right hand and looked at the ancient demon that looked exactly the same as him. The strange light in his eyes became even stronger. Even he found what he saw unbelievable. Combining his own speculations, Wang Lin gained a detailed understanding of what had happened. After pondering for a bit, Wang Lin's eyes lit up and he stared at the ancient demon and muttered, "For an ancient demon to be sent to my doorstep. It would be a pity not to take it since even he thinks he is me, then just let him be my second avatar. My original body is an ancient god, my first avatar is a cultivator, and my second avatar is an ancient demon. I wonder if I can create a third avatar that is an ancient devil. At that time when they all fuse, I wonder if I can revert back to the ancient order." Wang Lin's heart pounded as he looked at the ancient demon that delivered itself to him, and he smiled. His body flickered, and he left the statue. His divine sense and cultivation returned back to his body. He looked at the black statue before him, and his smile widened. He took a deep breath and sat down, placing his hand on his knees. Then he spat out essence origin energy that shrouded the stone statue before placing down restrictions on the statue. If he wanted to make this his second avatar, he had to refine it until it was one with his mind. He had to be able to manipulate it at will, and it could no reject his origin soul. Instead, his origin soul should easily be able to replace it if needed. Although this sounds simple, in truth was extremely difficult. Although it could be done by force, it is only useful against puppets far weaker than himself. Even if it succeeded, it would be useless as an avatar. However, if it wasn't weaker than him, he couldn't use force. In conclusion, it became the first hurdle to overcome. Since he couldn't force it, he had to slowly refine it day by day and consume a lot of time for a low chance of success. However, even if it succeeded, there was still a flaw. There was still a chance the avatar would rebel. However, this wasn't a difficult matter for Wang Lin, since this ancient demon already believed he was Wang Lin, so not much refining was required. All Wang Lin had to do was integrate his divine sense and make sure the ancient demon knew who the original was. This wasn't difficult for Wang Lin. He had a higher cultivation level than the ancient demon, and he was an ancient god. However, Wang Lin was cautious in the remaining few days. Not only did he completely integrate his divine sense into the ancient demon, he also left an imprint on the seal. Also, he left a large amount of restrictions inside the avatar. If this avatar ever rebelled, Wang Lin could immediately subdue it with a thought. If he stopped here, it wouldn't be Wang Lin's style. In addition, he used some of Celestial Emperor Qinglin's methods to control puppets on this second avatar. Only when he had absolute control did he relax. Looking at the stone statue before him, he felt as if it was one with him. It is a pity this second avatar has no physical body and must exist inside the stone statue. It can separate from it for now, and if it attacks, it mainly uses the demonic sense. Its also very weak, only late-stage ascendant. However, this is a sliver of demonic sense. If it has enough demonic energy, it will grow and reach the level of an ancient demon. Wang Lin's eyes lit up. He knew that he couldn't rush this, and that he had to do this slowly. After dealing with the matter at the soul refining sect, Wang Lin didn't take the stone statue with him. Instead, he laid down some powerful restrictions and ordered the soul refining sect to continue to worship it. This second avatar is a seed. Right now, it's not of any use to me, but once it grows, there was a glimmer of anticipation in Wang Lin's eyes. Then his body flickered, and he disappeared. Although the Sky Demon Country had won the battle against the Fire Demon Country hundreds of years ago, their casualties were too heavy. Even today, after hundreds of years, their population was far smaller than before. Even the most prosperous Sky Demon Country capital, while not bleak, wasn't as bustling as when Wang Lin first arrived. There were still shops along the streets, but not many pedestrians. The few pedestrians only took a few glances at the shops before quickly leaving. There was a long river through the inner city that connected with the river in the outer city and formed a cycle. At this moment, Wang Lin quietly sat on the side of the river and watched the river flow. If a power could turn back time to hundreds of years ago, then you would find that he was sitting exactly where he sat before. At this moment, he was still the same person at the same position next to the same river, but there was no flower boat on the river and there was no zither music to flow into his ears. A trace of melancholy appeared in Wang Lin's heart as he looked at the empty river. It was as if he could hear the echo of the zither music from hundreds of years ago. However, this music was very weak, as if the wind could cause it to dissipate and never be heard again. Thinking about it now, if not for drinking with the Demon Emperor for a night, Wang Lin probably would have never seen the face of the woman who played the zither. Even now, Wang Lin still only remembered her lonely figure and the zither music filled with sadness. Sitting there while watching the sunset, Wang Lin immersed himself in his memories. At this moment, he felt the passage of time. In the blink of an eye, hundreds of years had passed. It could wash everything but his eternal memories. Perhaps this is the tragedy of life. Wang Lin let out a sigh. Time existed because one had memories. If one had no memories, then there was no passage of time. I wonder if Mo Lihai is still around. There was a wine jug beside Wang Lin. This wine came from the same shop as back then. After generations, the label was still the same, but the wine. Wang Lin picked it up and took a sip. Even the taste has changed. Wang Lin bitterly smiled and put down the wine jug. Of course it changed. The descendants of that old man Don T have the skill of their ancestor, so they can recreate the same taste as before. A calm voice came from behind Wang Lin. It was filled with exhaustion. Wang Lin didn't turn around and let out a sigh. We haven't met in hundreds of years. The demon emperor isn't as carefree as before. A sigh came from behind Wang Lin. A middle-aged man wearing purple sat down beside Wang Lin. He was extremely handsome, showing a hint of what he once looked like. However, now he had strands of white hair and looked older. Drink it and try it. The middle-aged man took out a wine jug and handed it to Wang Lin. Wang Lin took it and drank a sip. He smiled and said, "It's the wine from back then. I knew you would definitely come back, so I saved a lot to drink with you." The middle-aged man waved his hand and another jug appeared. He took a big gulp before he smiled and said, "Brother Wang, do you feel melancholy without the zither music from back then?" The sound of the zither music slowly came from the distance, carrying a trace of loneliness and sadness. A moment later, a large ship came down the river. At the head of the ship sat the woman with her back toward Wang Lin, playing the zither. The end of the month is here. Wishing for the like button for the video. Brothers, do you still have likes for the video? Chapter 1003, Emperor Tuogu. Wang Lin held the wine jug in his hand as he watched the gradually passing boat. The zither music entered his ears as if he had returned to hundreds of years ago. However, this zither music only had the sound without the charm from back then. The person playing the zither was no longer the blind woman from back then. After drinking a sip of wine, Wang Lin sighed. The demon emperor is caring. The middle-aged man didn't speak. The two of them just sat by the river and drank one jug after another. The sun set and the earth was shrouded in darkness. There was no moon tonight. The only thing that remained was the sound of the zither, and the flickering light formed the boat on the river. Time slowly passed, and the sun appeared over the east, making the darkness fade. At the side of the river, Wang Lin was surrounded by empty wine jugs. The middle-aged man looked at the wine jugs and whispered, "Lord Beilu already knows of Brother Wang's arrival. He sent me here to deliver Brother Wang a message." Wang Lin's expression was neutral. When the demon emperor came, Wang Lin had already expected this. After all, the demon spirit land was now ruled by Beilu. Every time he devoured another ancient demon spirit, he would become several times stronger. Wang Lin drank the remaining half a jug of wine in one gulp. If Brother Wang agrees to leave one spot open to enter the fifth cave, 4 out of the 9 countries will be gifted to the soul refining sect. Also, Lord Beilu will not interfere with any matters regarding the soul refining sect, even the remnant of the cloud demon's demonic sense. The existence of the black stone could deceive a lot of people, but it couldn't deceive ancient demon Beilu. The reason he didn't do anything for hundreds of years and let it develop in the soul refining tribe was all for today. Wang Lin looked into the distance and calmly said, "Okay." The middle-aged man stood up, clasped his hands and said, "Brother Wang, I have completed the task Lord Beilu sent me to do. Now I have a matter I'd like to request your help on. My Emperor's sword spirit is the daughter of a good friend of mine. However, due to certain difficulties, she couldn't escape death except by becoming my sword spirit. She has been trapped here for countless years and has never left the demon spirit land. I'd like to ask Wang Lin to take this spirit out of the demon spirit land so she can enter the reincarnation cycle or encounter other fortunes." The middle-aged man's expression was bleak as his right hand pointed at the void. A ray of sword energy came from the palace, and the Emperor's sword was inside the sword energy. Wang Lin pondered a bit before he slowly said, "Why don't you seek someone else?" The middle-aged man shook his head and calmly said, "Countless people have entered the demon spirit land throughout the years, but there were few who I could believe in. However, I still had the power to protect the sword, so I missed the chance." Wang Lin let out a sigh. When the demon emperor arrived last night, Wang Lin detected a faint death aura from him. The demon emperor's lifespan was about to dry up. Although the people of the demon spirit land lived longer than ordinary cultivators, they still had a limit. If there were no accidents, it wouldn't be 30 years before the demon emperor died. As an acquaintance, Wang Lin had no reason to refuse, so he nodded. The middle-aged man smiled and revealed a look of relief. He then waved his right hand and the emperor's sword turned into a girl. Her eyes were filled with reluctance. If it wasn't tea for the fact that a sword spirit had no tears, her eyes would be watery right now. Be good, and don't be so stubborn anymore. The middle-aged man looked lovingly at the girl as if he wasn't tea looking at a sword spirit but his own daughter. After letting out a sigh, the middle-aged man clasped his hands at Wang Lin and bowed. Many thanks, Brother Wang. With that, he turned around and walked away. In a few steps, he was far away, leaving behind Wang Lin, who was holding a wine jug, and the girl, filled with sadness and reluctance. Let us go. Wang Lin drank the remaining wine in the jug and placed it on the side. Then he stood up and walked into the air. The girl looked at the imperial capital with eyes filled with sadness. She understood that this would be the last time she saw the demon emperor who treated her like his own daughter. The limit of one's lifespan was something that couldn't be changed. Filled with sorrow, her body turned into green smoke and returned into the emperor's sword. She let out a sad sword hymn and followed behind Wang Lin. The emperor's sword was like a ray of silver light that followed Wang Lin. As Wang Lin moved forward, he waved his hand and put the sword inside his bag. Then he spread out his divine sense before taking out the celestial cave token and disappearing in a flash of golden light. In the fourth cave, with Situ Nan leading the charge, they continued to break the restrictions inside. There were too many restrictions in the cave, and as they broke them, items that belonged to celestials appeared before them. With Situ Nan and company's cultivation, it wasn't difficult to break these restrictions. They charged directly toward the center of the cave. However, the power of the restrictions here had almost reached a peak. It was not something that could be broken with cultivation alone. Instead, you'd have to understand the restriction to break it. At this moment, there was a flash of golden light on the platform outside the cave, and Wang Lin appeared. He didn't hesitate and rushed directly into the cave. Along the way, he saw all the broken restrictions. Aside from the few at the entrance broken by others long ago, the rest were all broken by Situ Nan and company. Shortly after, Wang Lin saw Situ Nan and company. The three Chen brothers were sitting there cultivating with white gas surrounding them. It was obvious they had wasted a lot of energy breaking a restriction and were recovering. Big Head was next to the three Chen brothers. What surprised Wang Lin was that Big Head had some unexpected talent in restrictions. He was leading Lei Ji in calculating how to break a restriction. Master Hollow Wind had also studied restrictions, so he became the main force in breaking them. As for Situ Nan and the woman in silver, they became responsible for any retaliation that might occur once the restrictions were broken. Wang Lin slowly arrived and immediately caught the attention of everyone. Situ Nan had been here for several days and was already impatient. The restrictions around him made him dizzy as he only knew a little about restrictions. In his view, no matter how strong the restrictions were, as long as his cultivation level was high enough, he could break it. However, because he was in charge of dealing with the changes that might occur after a restriction was destroyed, he couldn't leave. Otherwise, with his personality, he would have already charged ahead by himself to break the restrictions. When he saw Wang Lin return, Situ Nan's eyes lit up and he laughed. You finally came back. I'm about to be bored to death here. This celestial cave isn't big, but it's not small either. We headed straight here, but there might be treasure elsewhere. I am going to explore first. With that, he didn't even wait for Wang Lin to reply. He walked into a bamboo forest on the side and disappeared. With Situ Nan's cultivation, Wang Lin wasn't worried about him. As for the poison, the two of them had spent some time and had come up with a method to temporarily suppress it without the need for a female cultivator. Worst case scenario, Situ Nan would just be trapped, and Wang Lin could rescue him later. Without stopping, Wang Lin arrived next to Master Hollow Wind and looked ahead. There was a small, flowing river 100 steps before them, and there was a thin layer of mist around it. There was a stone bridge that connected the sides of the river. This stone bridge was the only entrance. This place is very strange. We have already been blocked here for 5 hours. No matter how I calculate, I can seem to get a clue of this restriction. However, I have a feeling that if we open it by force, it will cause an unimaginable chain reaction, so we can use force. Master Hollow Wind nodded at Wang Lin and explained in detail. He feared Wang Lin didn't know much about restrictions and would demand to open it by force. Wang Lin's expression was neutral as his gaze fell on the stone bridge, and he didn't speak. This celestial cave is double-layered, and we are at a junction where the inner and outer layers connect. Once we pass this river, we will enter the inner part of the celestial cave. The restrictions here are too complicated, so we can get past them in a short period of time. Big Head suggested that we don't cross the stone bridge, but break the side and enter through the river. Master Hollow Wind spoke as he glanced at the Big Head, whose eyes were flashing as he gave an order to Lei Ji to throw punches at the restrictions ahead. Master Hollow Wind frowned as he looked at the river and said, "The 3 Chen brothers have consumed too much and are recovering." Fellow cultivator Situa's plan was to wait for them to recover, and we break it with our combined forces. I still have my reservations about that method. In his view, Wang Lin couldn't have cultivated for a long time. He had learned a few things about Wang Lin. To reach such a cultivation level in just over 1,000 years of cultivation is inconceivable. I'm afraid this Wang Lin doesn't know much about restrictions. After all, he hasn't had the time to master restrictions. It will have to depend on me and Big Head. Master Hollow Wind sighed inwardly. He knew his restriction abilities weren't very strong, and while he could handle the restrictions on the outer layer, he was already feeling like he was losing control at this junction. Wang Lin looked at the stone bridge and couldn't help but frown. No wonder Master Hollow Wind was stuck here. It was indeed as he said, if it was broken by force, the chain reaction would be unimaginable. I'm afraid this is the first hurdle to enter the inner part of the celestial cave. Although the step before them looked ordinary, aside from what Master Hollow Wind said, Wang Lin noticed other potential threats. The restrictions here were very different from those in the outer layer. I need to experience it to see if it is as I suspect. Wang Lin's eyes lit up and he slowly said, "Silver corpse!" The woman in silver's eyes narrowed, and she moved next to Wang Lin. Her intelligent eyes stared at Wang Lin, waiting for his order. Wang Lin didn't look at the woman in silver. He looked at the stone bridge and calmly said, "Advance 10 steps." Master Hollow Wind couldn't help but frown. This was the most unwise move to him. The restriction might be activated just like this. However, he only looked at Wang Lin without speaking. Instead, he took a few steps back and began to observe. The end of the month, wishing for the like button for the video, don't hold back, it's expiring. Chapter 1004, The Existence in the Depths of the Celestial Cave. At this moment, even the 3 Chen brothers opened their eyes. As they cultivated, the celestial spiritual energy entered their bodies. After frowning a bit, Master Yi Chen got up and said, "Fellow cultivator Wang, this matter is improper. Although I don't know much about restrictions, even I can see the hidden killing intent here. If we are going to open it by force, it is best to wait for us to recover so we have a higher chance." "No problem." Wang Lin waved his hand and interrupted Master Yi Chen. Wang Lin's command was absolute to the woman in silver. She didn't hesitate to enter that 100-step area. The moment her right foot landed, Wang Lin's eyes shined brightly. The woman in silver didn't stop and immediately took the next step. She had taken 9 steps in a row. The moment her 10th step landed, ripples appeared within the step area, and a faint mist appeared within the area. The mist quickly shot toward the woman in silver. In addition, as everyone watched, the step area before them twisted as if there was a power tearing it. Wang Lin's eyes flashed rapidly as he calculated like crazy in his mind. He calmly said, "Attack with a spell to the left, then retreat back." The silver woman immediately obeyed. Her right hand flashed and turned into a rune that suddenly landed on the left. There was a bang as if a storm had swept by the area. The mist was all blown away and even the ripples disappeared. The woman silver calmly retreated outside the 100 steps range. Master Hollow Wind was startled by this, and his eyes shined brightly. Not only him, but even the 3 Chen brothers were startled, and they looked at Wang Lin with strange expressions. Without giving them too much time to think, Wang Lin stepped forward and leaped ahead. He landed where the woman in silver's 10th step was. As I expected, the restrictions here are very different from the outer ones. Although the changes to the restrictions near the river are endless, they only take one form. One is the dirt and the second is water vapor. Flashes of deduction appeared in his eyes as he continued to calculate. All the restrictions within the step area slowly formed in his mind. Wang Lin had learned restrictions in the land of the ancient god. and he continued to improve them for over 1,000 years. Then, in Al Heaven, he inherited the annihilation restriction. Although the restrictions were strong, Wang Lin was not the same as he was in the past. Although his growth in restrictions was not as fast as his cultivation, it was still very fast. Wang Lin knew that his talent in cultivation was lacking, but he had amazing comprehension when it came to restrictions. This was something Wang Lin became aware of at the land of the ancient god. Having cultivated until now, Wang Lin had seen through it all. One's talent in cultivation was how sensitive one was to spiritual energy. The more sensitive one was, the better their talent. However, restrictions had nothing to do with one's sensitivity to spiritual energy. Restrictions all depended on one's calculations and deductions. It depended on one's mind. Wang Lin wasn't lacking in the mind, and his growth was almost superhuman in this regard. Otherwise, he couldn't have walked so far in his 1,000 years of cultivation. He stood at the 10th step and looked ahead. The restriction light in his eyes formed a storm, and in a flash, everything before him changed. The originally calm 100 steps contained 39,714 restrictions in total. These restrictions weren't independent, but all connected together. If one was activated, everything would activate with it. If it was Wang Lin before he learned the annihilation restriction, he would have found this a headache and wouldn't dare to carelessly step inside. He would have to wait outside and deduct more than 30,000 restrictions before he dared to attempt to crack them. However, Wang Lin's knowledge on restrictions had reached a completion, and he had inherited the annihilation restriction. He had also obtained the heart restriction, which was the peak of the annihilation restriction. Everything in the world could be trapped by restrictions. A universe could be contained in one's heart. Just one movement from one's heart could cause endless restrictions to form. While he deduced, he lifted his feet and walked 10 more steps. The restrictions within the step area immediately activated as if a stone was tossed into a lake, setting off a chain of ripples. The power coming from the ripples even shocked Master Hollow Wind. Celestial restrictions are indeed intricate. I wonder how the Ulcer and Ling Tianhu broke the restrictions in their cave. Wang Lin's eyes lit up. He didn't stop and continued to walk forward. Sand appeared within the 100 steps, as if it had become a desert, and covered the area. The sand and stone formed a storm and roared. The storm shot directly at Wang Lin. Outsiders couldn't see this, but Master Hollow Wind and company were all powerful cultivators. They didn't need their eyes. They used their divine senses to see the shocking impact within that step area. Wang Lin's expression didn't change. The moment the storm charged at him, he lifted his right hand and a restriction flew out. This restriction landed on the storm and made it collapse immediately. However, the storm was simply too big. It seemed to cover the world. Although it collapsed, it didn't affect the power of the storm, but the point of the collapse was on the lower part of the storm, right where Wang Lin was. As a result, the collapse continued, and Wang Lin walked through this storm. This simple restriction was something Wang Lin had learned after calculating countless times. The time, location, and size of the restriction all had to be perfect, or he couldn't produce a collapse just big enough for him to pass. Although it looked simple, it was not something ordinary people could do. Master Hollow Wind's eyes shined brightly as he stared at Wang Lin. He gasped as he was aghast at what he saw. He just couldn't believe that Wang Lin, who had only cultivated for such short period of time, had this much ability in restrictions. His calmness isn't fake. He is truly calm. I fear he has already deduced all the restrictions inside. He isn't going to break through by force. He will use restrictions to break restrictions. The three Chen brothers gasped and looked at each other. They respected Wang Lin even more in their hearts. After piercing the storm, Wang Lin moved even faster and walked 90 steps. He was only 10 steps away from the stone bridge. Just at this instant, the storm disappeared, but water vapor appeared, and the sound of waves could be heard. In Wang Lin's eyes, the step area suddenly turned into an ocean, and the angry waves smashed down on him. Wang Lin's eyes lit up. He was waiting for this moment. The moment the angry waves smashed down on him, Wang Lin's right hand hit his bag of holding, and an item appeared in his grasp. This was the heart compass that the inheritor of the heart restriction had to have. Holding the compass, Wang Lin stood straight. The waves hit his clothes, and his long hair drifted backwards, making him look like a celestial. His left hand moved over the compass and crackling sounds came from the compass. Then it began to rotate. Wang Lin's left hand became like a shadow as he continued to move, and his eyes flashed. Without pausing, he took a step to the left. He then moved several feet in one step and dove into the angry waves. However, the moment he closed in on the angry waves, there was a flash of coldness in Wang Lin's eyes. He shook the compass in his hand, and a large amount of restrictions flew out. "Break!" As Wang Lin shouted, the compass that flew out released a black glow. The restrictions around it rumbled as they pushed outwards. In an instant, the angry waves collapsed as if they had become obedient and shattered inch by inch before Wang Lin. The moment the waves disappeared, a scream came from inside the celestial cave and echoed throughout the cave as a sound wave. There was indeed someone controlling the restrictions. Wang Lin's eyes lit up. When he saw the restriction for the first time, he felt that something was wrong. The restrictions in the outer layer were all dead restrictions with no one controlling them. They all changed according to a rule and moved according to it. However, the restrictions within the 100 steps were different. He had the vague feeling that someone was controlling them. This was why Wang Lin had the female corpse enter 10 steps to probe. After observing the changes in the restrictions after advancing 10 steps, Wang Lin was certain his guess was correct. At this moment, he walked forward with the compass in his hand and stepped on the stone bridge. He then looked at the celestial cave before him and calmly proceeded forward. The cave of a celestial would not be simple. Wang Lin naturally knew this well. "I just don't know what is inside the depths of the celestial cave to control the restrictions to prevent outsiders from entering." Master Hollow Wind revealed a gaze of admiration as he, the 3 Chen brothers, and Big Head quickly followed. Wang Lin stood on the bridge and carefully looked at what was before him. The inner part of the celestial cave was like a garden with flowers everywhere. Although it was a celestial cave, the colors gave anyone who looked at them a feeling that it was a mess. 4 pavilions carved from jade were on the sides with a huge palace in the center. It had dragons and phoenixes carvings decorating it, along with other celestial beasts Wang Lin didn't know of. This gave this palace a sense of celestial might. In addition, there were 10 golden statues outside the palace. The 10 statues were all wearing armor as if they were celestial soldiers. Shunned gold. Wang Lin's eyes narrowed as all 10 of these golden soldiers were made of shunned gold. This shunned gold was one of the key ingredients to strengthening the body of a celestial guard. A terrifying aura came from the depths of the dark palace and surrounded the area. A grand chapter. Not caring to read 4,500 words, can T bear to split it into 2 chapters. As the donkey dies a martyr, tears flow wishing for the like button for the video. Chapter 1005. Flower Celestial. Master Hollow Wind looked at the palace in the center and slowly said, "This old man once learned from Ling Tianhu that there was a celestial soul guarding the celestial cave. He put a lot of effort into killing the celestial soul to finally occupy the celestial cave." Wang Lin's eyes lit up and he moved forward without hesitation. He stepped past the stone bridge and entered the inner part of the stone palace. The moment he closed in, the endless sea of flowers moved, and the fragrance of the flowers rushed at him. It smelled like stone and contained abnormal poison. Master Hollow Wind revealed a strange expression as he quickly retreated and said, "Rain poison fragrance. I once looked at some celestial realm records, and one of them talked about the poisons of the celestial realm. It ranked the top 100 poisons and gave a brief description of each one. After refining countless flowers, there are 2 types of poisons that can be formed. One of them is this rain poison fragrance. If you smell it, your cultivation immediately becomes unstable, and if you inhale a few more breaths, you will lose all your cultivation." The 3 Chen brothers' expressions changed slightly, but they didn't retreat. After all, they were Nirvana Scryer cultivators, so they had methods to guard against it. Wang Lin looked at the sea of flowers before him and calmly asked, "What is the second?" The second there was a trace of shock in Master Hollow Wind's eyes, and he said, "The rain poison fragrance is only ranked 93, but the other poison named Flower Spirit is ranked 49. After withdrawing his gaze from the flowers, Wang Lin waved his right hand and a strange wind swept the area. However, Wang Lin was surprised to find that the poison wasn't affected by the strange wind at all. It was as if it had no form and still flowed toward them. Interesting. Wang Lin's eyes narrowed, but he didn't retreat. When the fragrance arrived, he calmly said, "Silver corpse!" After he spoke, the woman in silver moved past the three Chen brothers and charged at the flower fragrance. When Wang Lin refined this corpse, he came to understand this corpse very well. It didn't have amazing spells, and for magic treasures, it only had that pair of scissors. Her real power was in poison. Back when the silver corpse was seriously injured and Wang Lin stole it, many other cultivators had similar ideas. However, they had all the flesh and blood in their bodies devoured until they were only bags of bones. Wang Lin had always thought that this was some kind of spell, but it wasn't until when he was refining her that he found it was a poison. While studying her, he found out that this silver corpse had extremely powerful poison in her. The poison was very diverse and could be mixed to form various terrifying poisons. As a result, the silver corpse became a poison corpse in Wang Lin's eyes. Poison was where the true power of this silver corpse lied, with her early stage nirvana cleanser cultivation and the poison in her body. If it wasn't for the fact that Wang Lin had the body of an ancient god, dealing with her would been a headache, and he wouldn't have carelessly provoked her. At this moment, the silver corpse charged directly into the flower fragrance. The poison that could immediately cause one's cultivation to weaken and even kill weaker cultivators had no effect on the silver corpse. The silver corpse opened her small mouth and inhaled. It was as if a vortex had formed, and the flower fragrance was all sucked into her mouth. During this process, the invisible flower fragrance unexpectedly took physical form. Large amounts of gas flew off the flowers and quickly entered the silver corpse's mouth. The silver corpse originally had a pale face, but her face turned unexpectedly rosy, and she now looked no different than a living person. As Wang Lin watched all of this, his eyes remained neutral. His gaze wasn't on the silver corpse but on the flowers because they were very strange. There was no reason for this, but it was the first feeling he got when saw the flowers. Just at this moment, a large amount of silk appeared from one of the flowers, and within the silk was a girl. This girl was naked, and her eyes revealed a ghostly light. She was kneeling, but her head was raised high. If it was just her, it wouldn't have been a big deal. But at this moment, silk exploded from other flowers, and more girls appeared one by one. The moment they appeared, Wang Lin clearly saw that there was a skeleton buried below each flower. What kind of sea of flowers was this? This was clearly a burial ground. Flower spirit! Master Hollow Wind had a face full of bitterness. He looked at the girls hugging their knees while looking up at the sky and bitterly smiled. I didn't think that the inside of this cave would have such a powerful protection. You bury celestials to form the spirit, and the spirit nourishes the flower to become a flower celestial. According to the records where there are flower spirits, there might be a flower celestial. Flower celestials aren't celestials, but a poison. It is a poison with intelligence, and it can take human form. The poison of the flower celestial is ranked number 10, Master Hollow Wind slowly explained. The eyes of the girls hugging their knees released a ghostly light. Then they all stood up and charged at the silver corpse in the air. According to the records, these flower spirits were all mortal girls that were fed unique drugs until they basically became living pills. Then they were collectively buried here with a special method. Several years later, a sea of flowers formed, and there is a certain chance they could fuse into a flower celestial. In the celestial realm, the flower celestial was an extremely precious poison because it could take human form, and so it was favored by the celestials. They would often get them to guard their caves or have fun with. Master Hollow Wind was worthy of being someone who had been cultivating for countless years. His understanding of celestials was very good, and the things he spoke so calmly about would shock most people. This was the first time the three Chen brothers had heard of this, and they couldn't help but be silent while looking at the girls charging at the silver corpse. They didn't pity them. They were shocked by how cruel the celestials were. Even Big Head gasped and silently pondered. In contrast, while Wang Lin's expression was gloomy, he wasn't shocked. In truth, after he learned Call the Wind, Summon the Rain, and Magic Arsenal, he understood that the celestial realm was no haven. He wouldn't revere the celestial like some cultivators did. From looking at Celestial Emperor Baifan's spells, he could tell that Baifan was not a righteous person. To be able to become a celestial emperor with self-created spells that were almost on the demonic path already showed what was wrong. It was just as Blood God had said. What kind of celestial spell is this? It is clearly a demonic spell. If Baifan was like this, Qing Lin was the same. The puppet refining method from the jade was extremely tyrannical to refine a living person. Wang Lin had already seen through it all. There was no haven for cultivators. Even the celestial realm was the same. After hearing Master Hollow Wind's words, he looked at the flower spirits. These girls had no expressions, but there was a resentment hidden in their eyes. This resentment was suppressed under a ghostly light and was unable to be released. As a result, it became gradually more powerful over the years. At this moment, these girls circled the silver corpse. As their eyes released a ghostly light, the resentment erupted. This resentment was so extremely strong that it was shocking. The resentment formed an impact and headed straight for the silver corpse. From Wang Lin's point of view, the girls surrounded the silver corpse and pulled her body as if they wanted to assimilate her. However, the silver corpse was already a corpse. Her eyes lit up and she spat out white fog. The flower spirits that touched the white fog immediately collapsed and disappeared into the fog. As the white fog spread, it covered almost the entire inner cave. As the flower spirits disappeared one by one, the flowers on the ground withered. Just at this moment, a sharp cry came from the depths of the palace. The earth shook and the 10 celestial soldiers outside began to move. They turned into 10 rays of golden light that shot into the sky. They were obviously trying to stop the silver corpse from absorbing the flower spirits. Without Wang Lin having to give the order, Master Hollow Wind's eyes lit up and he charged out. While his mountain-like body flew out, he waved his sleeves. With a bang, 3 of the Xuan gold soldiers were separated from the pack to become his prey. The 3 Chen brothers all charged forward and dealt with one each. Big Head sneered and then charged forward. His lean body became even skinner, and all the flesh condensed on his head. Soon, his head was twice as big as before and the veins on his face bulged. A moment later, one of the veins shot out and wrapped around one of the soldiers. Then he dragged the soldier with him to the side. The cave was in chaos as the silver corpse continued to absorb the white fog. At the same time, Master Hollow Wind and company battled the soldiers on the ground. These soldiers didn't feel no pain and their bodies were extremely tough. There were flashes of golden light when they attacked, and each of their punches contained the power of a spell. Almost every single celestial soldier was no weaker than a peak corporeal yang cultivator. Along with their terrifying bodies, they could battle Nirvana Scryer cultivators. Seeing that there were still 3 soldiers left, Master Yi Chen let out a cold short and charged out. He blocked one of the soldiers and waved his big sleeves to push it back. He was now battling 2 soldiers. Master Yi Long and Master Yi Shang had the same idea. Big brothers and little sisters, do you still have likes for the video? Wishing for the like button for the video to help. Chapter 100, Refining the Sword Sheath. This was a very large cave with countless small holes on its walls. Wang Lin's divine sense came out of one of those small holes. In the center of the room was a huge coffin. This coffin looked very normal. In fact, there weren't even any decorations on it at all, but waves of powerful yin energy were being released from the coffin. The yin energy turned into white gas that was sucked into the countless holes. Wang Lin hesitated and observed the coffin for a while. Then, he attempted to check it out with his divine sense, and to his surprise, he entered without any resistance. The coffin was completely empty except for a large hole. The yin energy was coming out of this hole. The yin energy was very dense. The waves of yin energy prevented Wang Lin's divine sense from seeing through it. In his own cave, Wang Lin's eyes revealed a determined light. In order to find out where this yin energy was coming from and why the bead could absorb this yin energy, he took out the gourd from his bag of holding and took a gulp without any hesitation. Even with Wang Lin's current physical condition, he couldn't help but shiver. He was quickly losing consciousness, and his body became numb. Wang Lin didn't waste any time and quickly circulated the spiritual energy in his body to absorb the yin energy. As he absorbed the yin energy, his divine sense became more powerful. With the constant flow of energy, his divine sense charged into the hole in the coffin. His divine sense struggled inside the hole, and many times the yin energy almost scattered his divine sense. When he went down 400 meters or so, the yin energy formed a wall. Wang Lin clenched his teeth and took a large gulp of yin spirit liquid. He charged through the wall and was shocked by what he saw. An extremely large body was floating in the air. If Wang Lin were to compare his body to this giant S, he would only be the size of the giant S finger. On the body were these strange, greenish-purple plants. The plants would move in a strange manner, and the body would visibly shrink, but quickly grow back to normal. As the cycle continued, the purple plants rapidly released yin energy. Wang Lin was stunned. He spread out his divine sense, observed it for a while, and was stunned. This body was purposely left here by someone. Its purpose was to be nutrients for the greenish-purple plants. It was clear that the reason the corpse sect had this yin energy was due to these plants. Even the reason why the heaven-defying bead evolved must be these planets. Wang Lin felt that this place was very weird because the moment he entered, he had this feeling of danger. Just as he was about to leave, a difficult-to-understand voice could be heard. Wang Lin didn't say a word, and attempted to withdraw his divine sense, but he was shocked to find out that the yin energy in the room was blocking him from leaving. Soon, the voice grew closer and closer, until he was almost able to hear what it was saying. "Save me." Wang Lin decisively took the gourd and drank all of the remaining yin spirit liquid. His divine sense shook as he charged into the surrounding yin energy. Large amounts of yin energy entered his divine sense and mixed with the unabsorbed yin energy in his body, causing Wang Lin to cough out a mouthful of blood. By the time the blood was coughed out, it was already frozen solid. Even so, his divine sense broke through the obstacle and quickly returned to his body. He coughed out more frozen blood as he revealed a terrified expression. He didn't dare to check again and quickly began to cultivate to regulate his body. After a while, he opened his eyes and began to ponder as he stared at the holes in the wall. Time slowly passed, and in the blink of an eye, Wang Lin had already been at the corpse sect for 4 days. In these 4 days, aside from 3 days ago, when he explored underground with his divine sense, he didn't go out at all. He spent all this time collecting yin spirit liquid from the bead. During this time, the bead went from 2 leaves to 3 leaves. According to Wang Lin's calculations, the total number of leaves should be the same as the clouds from before, a total of 10. Wang Lin also knew from previous experience that each leaf would take longer than the last. If he just continued like this, then it would take years before he could complete the wood element. But the corpse sect was not a place he could stay in for long. He decided to check that place out once again to find a way for his body to enter. If he could get some of that plant, he was sure he could make the bead evolve much faster. But the danger of doing this was simply too great. Even Wang Lin was unsure. After pondering for a long time, he gave up on going down there in person. He understood that with his current cultivation level, no matter how careful he was, the chances of him being able to get some of that greenish-purple plant were low, and that he was more likely to lose his life. After thinking about the situation, he knew that it was not safe. After he made up his mind, he slapped his bag of holding, and an ancient-looking sword sheath floated before him. After Wang Lin obtained this sword sheath, he had only refined it once after he stole Teng Li's foundation. Although he didn't successfully refine it, he gained some control over it, but the effect wasn't great. He had only been able to make the flying sword sink 3/5 of the way in. Wang Lin had studied the sword sheath many times. Even Situnan said that this sword sheath was very strange and was more valuable than the small flying sword that went through blood refining. Wang Lin's eyes lit up as he muttered. Sun Hao said before that he found this sword and sword sheath inside an ancient cave, and that besides his master, only people who had reached the core formation stage could refine it. There are truths and lies in this. It is not that you can refine it if you are below the core formation stage. It is just the amount of time and spiritual energy it takes is too great. Once you have reached the core formation stage, the fire in one's core shortens the process greatly. Unfortunately, the blood refining technique can only be used on one item. If it could be used on both at the same time, then things would be much easier. Wang Lin didn't even blink as he stared at the sword sheath. In order to increase the power of his flying sword, he must try to refine this sword sheath again. Although he didn't have a core, he did have a cold core from cultivating the underworld ascension method. All of the spiritual energy in his body was managed by the cold core in his body. Wang Lin had studied it for a while, but Situ Nan once told him that a cold core was far from a real core, and that, unless it was a last resort, his cold core shouldn't leave his body. After the cold core leaves the body for a period of time, it dissipates, meaning that he would have to form another one. The first time he refined the sword sheath was when he first entered the foundation establishment stage. Now that he has cultivated the underworld ascension method, not to mention the change in quality of his spiritual energy, His spiritual energy itself had also increased greatly. He was now at the peak of early-stage foundation establishment, and was only one step away from mid-stage foundation establishment, so it would be much easier this time. Thinking about that, Wang Lin opened his mouth and spat out a mouthful of yin spiritual energy. The moment the yin spiritual energy touched the sword sheath, a layer of frost covered the sword sheath. Wang Lin pointed with his finger and the sword sheath slowly turned in the air while radiating a blue light. It looked very beautiful. Wang Lin's hand didn't stop as he shot out multiple beams of blue light. Every time the blue light touched the sword sheath would tremble. Gradually, Wang Lin's hand moved faster and faster, until it looked like there was a stream of light connecting Wang Lin's hand with the sword sheath, and the frequency of the sword sheath's trembling escalated. Large drops of sweat appeared on Wang Lin's forehead, but they were instantly frozen and fell to the ground. Wang Lin didn't have time to bother with that at all as he quickly shot out a few more rays of blue light. Then, he quickly slapped his bag of holding and drank some yin spirit liquid before he continued to refine the sword sheath. Time slowly passed. After the sword sheath had trembled for such a long time, the blue light surrounding it went on and off. Slowly, a pentagon shape appeared on the sword sheath. After he saw the pattern, Wang Lin relaxed a bit. He no longer shot out blue rays of light, and instead regulated the spiritual energy in his body as he thought. My cultivation is about 5 times stronger than before. Situ Nan told me of a method that can force the formation on the sword sheath to appear by using my spiritual energy. Last time, I shot out 5,000 rays of spiritual energy before the formation appeared, but I was too tired to continue. This time, it appeared after only 1,000 rays. Although my cultivation level has increased a lot, it is still too far away from the core formation stage. Situ Nan said before that at the core formation stage, only a few rays of spiritual energy would force the formation to appear. He took a deep breath. His right hand formed a seal and pointed at his abdomen. His stomach shrank back in as he revealed a painful expression. His right hand slowly rose from his abdomen, and he opened his mouth as a blue orb the size of a baby's first floated out of his mouth. Wang Lin's face was pale. After breathing slowly for a bit, he quickly pointed at the cold core. Suddenly, the cold core melted into a puddle of blue liquid. Wang Lin's face became even more pale. There wasn't even a trace of blood, but Wang Lin's expression became even more serious as he carefully guided the melted cold core toward the sword sheath. Just in time to keep the manuscript, tonight's update might not be timely. If there's no second watch tonight, Leo will supplement tomorrow. However, Leo will try his best to finish today. Chapter 1006, Crisis. With Master Yi Long temporarily holding off 2 soldiers, Master Yi Shang charged out at the remaining 2 soldiers. His hands formed a seal, then he grabbed one and threw it toward Master Yi Long. As a result, there was only 1 soldier left. Just as the soldier was about to charge into the white fog, Master Hollow Wind's eyes lit up. His hand reached out, causing the soldier to tremble, and pulled it back. Master Hollow Wind was now battling 4 celestial soldiers. Although these 10 celestial soldiers had powerful bodies, it wasn't difficult for Master Hollow Wind and company. Wang Lin felt lucky when he saw this. If he hadn't fled the demon spirit land back then and was determined to break the restrictions, then even if he had reached this point, he would had no way of dealing with the flower spirit or celestial soldiers. Wang Lin's expression was calm as he walked toward the palace at the center. However, before he even got close, a shocking change occurred. At this instant, the 4 towers became blurry in Wang Lin's and became illusions. At the same time, powerful lights came from the illusions. The powerful lights fused and turned into a tortoise shell that surrounded the palace. From a distance, it was as if a giant tortoise shell was covering the palace. At the same time, 4 strands of green smoke came from the tortoise shell and turned into 4 green-robed elders. Wang Lin's expression was calm as he looked at the 4 elders. They were all souls with cultivation levels between early and mid-stage Nirvana Scryer. The 4 elders all had the air of celestials and gave off dense celestial spiritual energy. One of them had eyes like lightning as he stared at Wang Lin and shouted, "Lower realm dirt, you dare to invade the celestial cave? Your punishment is death." After he spoke, he didn't even give Wang Lin time to explain before he stepped forward and pointed up at the sky. All the celestial spiritual energy inside the cave gathered to form a vortex in his hand. This vortex collapsed as the old man pointed at it, but then a roar came out from within. A beast charged out of the collapsed vortex. This beast was covered in black fur. It was obviously a huge primal ape. It was about 10 feet tall, and it directly lunged at Wang Lin. The old man moved with a gloomy expression. He turned into a ray of green light and charged at Wang Lin behind the primal ape. The three others elders also moved. One of them raised his hand, causing a storm of sand and dirt to appear. The storm took the shape of a python that attempted to devour Wang Lin. Another person extended their arm, and the arm turned into green smoke. As the celestial spiritual energy in the cave gathered, he turned into a giant eagle that shot toward Wang Lin like lightning. The final elder's eyes lit up and his hands formed a seal. He pointed up at the sky and shouted, "Celestial mountain attack!" The moment he spoke, a rumbling sound came from the cave, and then a large mountain appeared and smashed down on Wang Lin. In an instant, the four elders attacked at the same time. Their celestial spells worked together with the intent to kill. Wang Lin's eyes shined brightly, and instead of retreating, he charged forward. As the ape closed in, Wang Lin's right hand formed a fist and he threw a punch. A loud rumble appeared with this punch, and as they passed each other, Wang Lin's fist hit the chest of the ape. Rumbling sounds came from the giant ape's upper body, and then it quickly retreated. However, it only retreated 3 steps before the upper half of its body exploded. Without pausing, Wang Lin jumped into the air. He pointed down and calmly said, "Wither Dao Pear." After he spoke, the withered Dao Pear on the back of his hand released a dark glow and flew out. A grim beast's skull flew out filled with black mist. A ghostly light came from the eyes of the beast's skull. At this instant, a shocking killing aura appeared, and as the ghostly light shined, gray light covered the giant eagle that was charging at Wang Lin. In an instant, the eagle turned into a stone statue. At this moment, the black python closed in. It opened its mouth and a powerful suction force came out. A powerful smell of blood drifted from its mouth as it attempted to devour Wang Lin. There was a flash of coldness in Wang Lin's eyes as he retreated, slapped his bag of holding, and shouted 3 sets of 9 swords. Golden swords immediately flew out of his bag and floated around him. There were 27 swords. The moment the 27 swords appeared, they organized into a sword formation and shot toward the giant python. Boom, 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 boom. As the shocking rumbles echoed, the python was surrounded by the 27 swords. The swords rapidly pierced through the python, causing it to let out bursts of miserable cries. Although all this sounds slow, it all happened in an instant. The inner cave suddenly darkened as the celestial mountain penetrated the white fog and smashed down. Wang Lin's expression remained neutral as he spat out an item. It was the 18 Hell Celestial Sealing Stamp. The moment it appeared, it grew and charged at the celestial mountain. It collided with the mountain with a bang. Taking advantage of this moment, there was a flash of killing intent in Wang Lin's eyes, and he shouted, "Call the wind!" All of a sudden, the world changed colors. Then a black wind appeared in Wang Lin's hand and covered the world. 4 black dragons immediately appeared within the black wind and charged out with roars. The expression of old man that had summoned the giant ape changed greatly, and he shouted, "Baifan's spell!" He didn't hesitate to retreat, but he was too late. One of the black dragons devoured him. Of the remaining 3, aside from the one that summoned the mountain, the other 2 weren't able to escape and were devoured by the black dragons. All of this happened too quickly. The remaining elder retreated and landed on the tortoise. He chanted a strange spell, and then light flowed into him from the shell like water. Seeing the old man's aura increase, how could Wang Lin let him do as he wished? Wang Lin raised his right hand and said, "Stop!" At this instant, the old man felt like he had entered a trance, and he clearly felt his body get surrounded by countless invisible threads. He muttered, "Stop spell." He had a strange expression and was about to speak when the last black dragon devoured him. Wang Lin saw the strange expression that appeared on the old man's face, but this wasn't the time to think about it. Wang Lin arrived before the tortoise shell and raised his right hand. He formed a fist, and the illusion of an ancient god arm appeared. He mercilessly smashed down on the tortoise shell below him. There was a loud rumble, as if the entire cave was trembling, and countless cracks appeared on the ground. The tortoise shell flickered violently but showed no sign of breaking. At this moment, Master Hollow Wind and company had finished off the celestial soldiers, and the silver corpse had finished absorbing the flower spirits. Her face was rosy, and she seemed to have undergone a mysterious change. Break this formation. With one order from Wang Lin, everyone used their various spells with the shell as their target. As the thunderous rumbles echoed, the tortoise shell flickered once more. The stone bridge started to collapse and was soon completely destroyed. However, the tortoise shell remained intact and had only dimmed a little. Wang Lin frowned and was secretly shocked. The protective ability of this tortoise shell was beyond his expectations. Neither his own ancient god fist nor the attacks of many old monsters caused the tortoise shell to collapse. I don't know if the celestial caves that the Alcer and Ling Tianhu went into also had shells like this. If they had the shell too, how did they break it? Wang Lin's eyes lit up as he looked at the tortoise shell. Not only was he shocked, even Master Hollow Wind and company were shocked, and their gazes gathered on the tortoise shell. Just as everyone looked at the tortoise shell, it began to flash and gradually revealed the palace within. The palace was completely dark, making it impossible to see inside, but there were footsteps coming out from inside. The cave was quiet, so although the footsteps were light, they could clearly hear them. These footsteps had a strange force, and when their sounds entered everyone's ears, they unexpectedly synchronized with their heartbeats. It was as if every step was stepping on their hearts. Master Hollow Wind's expression changed, and the origin energy inside his body cycled rapidly to finally separate his heartbeat from the sounds of the footsteps. However, the three Chen brothers, Big Head and Lei Ji didn't have the cultivation to do this. As the footsteps closed in, their faces turned pale. Only the silver corpse remained normal. She was a corpse with intelligence, so without a heartbeat she wasn't affected. Wang Lin's expression gradually became gloomy. He had the body of an ancient god, so he could withstand this level of mental attack. The footsteps became more and more clear, as if someone was walking out from the depths of the palace. The three Chen brothers' faces became even more pale, and the veins on Big Head's head swelled up. Lei Ji had the lowest cultivation level. His body trembled and he retreated a few steps, but he still couldn't endure it. He let out a roar and his body expanded to a few hundred feet tall to finally be able to endure it. The footsteps seemed to have reached the entrance of the palace. At this moment, a white figure appeared from within the palace. A ray of light pierced through the tortoise shell and landed on Wang Lin. A sense of life and death crisis that hadn't appeared in a long time suddenly surrounded Wang Lin like a storm. It caused all the hair on his body to stand up. Reading so much. Besides, the golden keyboard is active. I ask everyone to support a bit more, not just words of support. I'm afraid I can't even carry the last 3. Chapter 1007. Warning. Wang Lin's current cultivation was not the same as before, so not many situations could make him feel danger, especially after he became a 5-star royal ancient god. Unless the enemy's cultivation level was late-stage Nirvana Cleanser or above, it would be impossible for Wang Lin to feel a strong sense of danger. However, the moment the white figure appeared, Wang Lin's sense of crisis reached a peak. Wang Lin hadn't experienced the feeling of all his hair standing up in a while now. His pupils shrank, and he subconsciously retreated a few steps. The blue light in his eyes shined as he stared at the white figure. A quiet sigh came from inside the palace. The white figure walked out, and what appeared before Wang Lin and company was a beautiful woman. This woman was very beautiful, almost to a demonic level. Even though Liu Mei didn't lose in appearance, she lacked an unspeakable feeling. It was as if this woman was a flower of the world. She would bloom and wither along with the world. She only showed half her body. After her gaze swept past Wang Lin, she looked at everyone else before retreating. However, just a glance had caused Wang Lin feel as if a hammer had mercilessly smashed his heart. He felt a buzz in his head, and he coughed out a mouthful of blood. Then he retreated a few dozen feet, and his expression became gloomy. If Wang Lin was like this, everyone else was worse off. Master Hollow Wind's sighs widened and became bloodshot before he coughed out a mouthful of blood. His mountain-like body trembled and rapidly shrank until he was only half of his original size. Large amounts of origin energy entered his mind as he retreated dozens of feet before he stopped. His face was pale and he was aghast by the situation as he shouted, "Flower Celestial!" The three Chen brothers weren't able to resist at all. With one glance, Master Yi Chen's eyes went unfocused, and the sounds of things popping came from his chest. He coughed out a large mouthful of blood and fell from the sky. At that moment, the panic in his eyes reached a peak. As for Master Yishang and Master Yilong, it was as if their hearts were pierced, and blood spewed out from their pores, soaking their clothes in blood. They fell from the sky and began to cultivate without hesitation. Big Head and Lei Ji were the same. Lei Ji's large body wasn't able to withstand the shock to his mind. He knelt down on the ground and his face was ashen. Only the silver corpse remained normal, but there was a flash of strange light in her eyes. Just one glance contained such terrifying power, and this made Wang Lin gloomy. This was merely one of the 4 outer caves, but it was already so dangerous. Once they entered the final cave, it was obvious there would be danger at every corner. I fear this trip to the demon spirit land will be the most dangerous trip I, Wang Lin, have made in my life. Wang Lin had anticipated danger, but he didn't think that their power would be a bit lacking in just the outer cave with the people he brought. Start creating now. Seeing the white figure disappear back into the darkness of the palace, Wang Lin's eyes lit up. With his intelligence, he obviously knew that that gaze was a warning. Warning them, especially Wang Lin, to not enter. If it was any other time, Wang Lin would choose to avoid this place after facing such a warning and powerful attack. After all, what he was doing now was same as invading someone's cave. However, this was a trip Wang Lin had to make. All of this was for Zhou Yi. His greatest wish was to revive Qing Shuang, and the one with the best chance to revive her was her father, Qing Lin. Wang Lin still felt grateful toward Zhou Yi, like how he felt grateful toward Situ Nan. Situ Nan had helped Wang Lin get on the path to become a cultivator, and Zhou Yi had played a critical role in his cultivation. If not for Zhou Yi's ascendant crystal, Wang Lin would have already died along the path of cultivation. Moreover, although the poison inside Situ Nan was suppressed for now, both of them knew that if it was not dealt with, the consequences would be extremely serious. It could be said that the hopes of both of his most important benefactors, Situ and Zhou Yi, were all here. Even if it was dangerous, he could not choose to retreat. Even if he had to invade someone else's cave and do unjust things, Wang Lin would have no regrets. In this world, it was hard to say who was right or wrong. As long as he was helping Zhou Yi and Situ Nan, to him, he was in the right. However, for the white figure in the palace, the person who invaded the cave was in the wrong. Since I made the choice, then I must walk down this path. Wang Lin took a deep breath as he stood before the tortoise shell, and his right hand reached toward the void. A thunderous rumble echoed across the cave as if a spatial rift was opened inside it. As the cold wind blew, strands of black light began to gather. Soon, the illusion of a spear appeared in Wang Lin's hand. Large amounts of thunder filled the area, and crackling sounds echoed inside the quiet cave. At this moment, the shadow of an ancient god appeared behind Wang Lin. As he grabbed the god-slaying spear, the ancient god's shadow also reached out, and there was a loud rumble. A god-slaying spear unexpectedly appeared in the shadow's hand as well. A powerful surge of origin energy filled the cave. As Wang Lin took a deep breath and lifted the god-slaying spear, the gravel on the ground began floating into the air. Not only the gravel, but even the water in the river seemed to stop flowing and floated into the air. Debris from the 4 broken towers also floated into the air. At this moment, the entire cave became strange. I don't wish to hurt anyone. Even the 4 souls earlier were just remnants and not the original bodies. Even now, I only want to break this shell and open the passage to the cave. Wang Lin's third eye slowly appeared, and hidden under the third eye, the 5 stars rotated rapidly. The power of an ancient god filled Wang Lin's body. Wang Lin's body suddenly moved, and then the god-slaying spear gently moved. As the spear moved, it was as if space itself was being sliced through. Holding the god-slaying spear, Wang Lin moved like lightning toward the tortoise shell. When Wang Lin got near, determination filled his eyes and he shouted, "Master Hollow Wind, Silver Corpse, help me break the shell." Master Hollow Wind clenched his teeth and moved. His body rapidly shrank until he was the size of a normal person. Then his body released a golden glow and a giant stone tablet appeared. There were many runes on this stone tablet, and it gave off a golden glow. When Master Hollow Wind pointed forward, the stone tablet whistled through the air toward the tortoise shell. There was a loud bang when the stone tablet smashed down on the shell, causing it to flash violently. The silver corpse spat out a 5-colored smoke that headed straight for the tortoise shell. The 5-colored smoke covered the tortoise shell and started to melt it. The tortoiseshell began to flash even more violently. At this moment, Wang Lin mercilessly threw the god-slaying spear down. This god-slaying spear was like a mad dragon that whistled through the air toward the tortoiseshell. It was so fast that the tip of the spear touched the tortoiseshell almost instantly. A circular ripple suddenly spread out from the spear and caused a loud rumble. At the same time, fine cracks appeared on the shell where the spear collided. The moment the cracks appeared, the 5-colored smoke entered the cracks. Adding the impact of the golden stone tablet, the cracks became even larger until the shell completely collapsed. When it collapsed, the entire palace was lit up. The pieces of shells were all pushed back by the force. The god-slaying spear was current, displaying all the power Wang Lin could release with it. After breaking through the tortoiseshell, it shot toward the palace under it. Along with it was the 5-colored smoke. However, at that moment, the sense of crisis that made Wang Lin's hair stand on end appeared once more. This time it was even stronger than before. A white palm extended out from the palace and pointed at the god-slaying spear. Countless flowers of various colors appeared in the sky. There were so many that they immediately covered the sky and stopped the god-slaying spear. As for the 5-colored smoke, it immediately turned into a 5-colored flower that floated in the air. The white figure walked out and raised her beautiful hand. She coldly stared at Wang Lin and pointed at him. At this instant, Wang Lin's pupils suddenly shrank. Then he opened his mouth and spat something out. It was the protection treasure Master Flamespark had gifted him, a Thunder Celestial Realm fragment. There were some cracks on the fragment that were caused by the All-Seer's spell. At this moment, the celestial fragment flew out and immediately grew until it was 1,000 feet wide. It was like a shield protecting Wang Lin. However, right when the celestial fragment appeared, countless flowers bloomed on the fragment. These flowers were all extremely gorgeous, and they released a nice fragrance. "I have already warned you," a soft but extremely cold voice echoed. Just as this sound appeared, the celestial fragment covered in flowers suddenly shattered. Fans celebrating the new year, please join the VIDEEO fan battle team. If you need to complete a mission, Leo can praise everyone in the chapter narration. Chapter 1008, Burial Flower. When the celestial fragment collapsed, the smell of the flowers landed on Wang Lin. He felt an unimaginable impact hit his body, and his insides popped, and he coughed out a mouthful of blood. Terror filled Wang Lin's eyes, and he quickly retreated. Who the hell is she? Could she really be a flower celestial? Wang Lin's scalp felt numb. He knew he was fortunate he had the body of an ancient god. If he was a normal cultivator, he would have died without a doubt. Even so, the pain from his body made his mind tremble. The collapse of the celestial fragment shocked Wang Lin. Although cracks had appeared on the celestial fragment due to the All-Seer's spell, it was still an extremely powerful protective treasure. However, it had collapsed in such a strange way from one point of the woman's finger. Wang Lin couldn't help but gasp and quickly retreat. The woman was surprised, and she walked out a few steps. Looking at Wang Lin with her cold gaze, she raised her right hand and gently pointed at the void. At this instant, the sense of crisis drowned Wang Lin like a flood. He only felt a pain from his chest, as if a sharp thorn was going to pierce it. Under this intense pain, he activated his ancient god power without hesitation. Popping sounds came from his chest, and then an illusionary plant appeared before his chest, but its roots were broken by the ancient god power. The woman in white frowned and calmly said, "No wonder you dared to invade the cave. You indeed have some qualifications." With that, her jade-like hand pointed to the side. Master Hollow Wind, who was ready to escape in case something went wrong, was immediately surrounded by blooming flowers. The fragrance covered him, and his expression immediately became pale. He immediately sat down to cultivate in the sea of flowers regardless of the crisis. He had to cultivate to force the poison out of his body as fast as possible. The moment he sat down, the flowers closed in and surrounded Master Hollow Wind. From a distance you could see an endless sea of flowers, but not Master Hollow Wind. The 3 Chen brothers and Big Head were terrified. They wanted to retreat, but they were covered by flowers. Before they could use any spells, they were surrounded by the sea of flowers. As for the silver corpse, she was also surrounded by the sea of flowers, so it was impossible to see her anymore. Looking around, Wang Lin was the only one remaining. The woman's cold gaze fell on Wang Lin. Wang Lin felt his mind tremble once more. A ray of blue light shot out from his right eye and the azure light shield appeared before him. Immediately following that, popping soundings could be heard before him. Flowers appeared in the air and shattered as the azure light shield swept by. The flowers scattered, but the strange fragrance became even stronger. The woman in white frowned even harder. She took a hairpin out of her hair with her right hand and, after looking at it, threw it forward. A sharp sound that could pierce the origin soul immediately echoed across the cave. The hairpin flew directly at Wang Lin. It was so fast that even Wang Lin wasn't able to keep track of it. He could only hear popping sounds echo around him as he retreated. Every pop meant the azure light shield being hit. The feeling of life and death crisis enveloped Wang Lin's body. He couldn't see through her cultivation, but he felt that her cultivation was more terrifying than Master Flamespark's. The woman raised her right hand once more, forming a strange seal, and softly said, "Burial flower." After she spoke, countless flowers bloomed wherever there was light. There was simply too many flowers, causing the cave to become a world of flowers. The moment she said burial flower, the flowers seemed to reach their peak and began to wilt. As the stems rapidly withered, the petals fell off like a rain of petals. As the woman's hand formed that seal, all of the petals surged at Wang Lin as if they wanted to drown him. Without a path of retreat, there was a flash of cold light in Wang Lin's eyes. It had been a long time since he was pushed into a corner where he could die at a moment of carelessness. His hand formed a seal without hesitation, and he pointed up at the sky and shouted, "Call the wind." Black wind appeared within the sea of flowers and gathered on Wang Lin's right hand. It turned into 4 black dragons and blasted out cold air. Without pausing, his right hand changed seals and he shouted, "Summon the rain." As the 4 black dragons roared, a large amount of rain descended and covered the sky. Large amounts of celestial spiritual energy gathered from all directions and entered the raindrops in the blink of an eye. As Call the Wind and Summon the Rain were used in succession, they began to fuse. Within the wind, the power of the rain was mighty, and within the rain, the wind was even colder. As a result, this caused the countless raindrops to turn into ice crystals. As Wang Lin pointed, the 4 black dragons roared, and the ice rain fell straight toward the woman in white. This was a moment of crisis, and Wang Lin's eyes turned cold. His hands formed a seal once more, and without hesitation, he shouted, "Magic Arsenal!" With that, a ray of black light flew out from his mouth. It was the 18 Hell Celestial Sealing Stamp. The 18 Hell Sealing Stamp flashed brightly. As Wang Lin waved his sleeves, the battle souls inside the stamp flew out and filled the cave. They charged at the woman in white, along with Call the Wind and Summon the Rain. Magic Arsenal caused a ripple in the sea of flowers. This was the first time Wang Lin had used all 3 of Baifan's celestial spells. The power of the 3 spells was unsurpassable. The black wind blew back the petals and the ice crystals caused popping sounds to echo across the cave. Finally, the countless battle souls from Magic Arsenal, especially Blood Ancestor, swept the area. The 3 spells formed a storm that swept the world. Rumble, rumble. The rumbling was heaven-shaking. The fusion of 3 of Baifan's spells forced an opening in the sea of flowers and closed in on the woman in white. Wang Lin took a step forward and cracking sounds came from his body. He changed from his original size to more than 1,000 feet tall. The azure light shield changed with him and became hundreds of feet large. It circled around Wang Lin. The aura of a royal ancient god spread out without reservation. Wang Lin let out a roar as his right hand mercilessly threw a punch. A powerful gust of wind appeared and increased the speed of the 3 spells before it. It broke through everything and arrived before the woman in white. The 4 dragons roared and countless ice crystals rained down. There were also countless battle souls filling the sky. The expression of the woman in white changed slightly as she stared at Wang Lin's large body and softly said, "Ancient God." She raised her right hand, and a flash of green light emitted from her hand. Then a mysterious ball of light appeared. The moment he saw this ball of light, Wang Lin, who had turned into an ancient god, felt that powerful sense of crisis once more. This time it was several times stronger than before, and all of it was because of that ball of light. The woman in white's expression became even colder, and she threw the ball of light. It flew forward at the storm and collided with it in an instant. There was no sound, but the scene before him brought Wang Lin a great deal of shock. The moment that ball of light and the storm touched, they collapsed. The collapse of the ball of light caused a strange change. The 3 spells that were original fused separated back into 3 spells. However, they changed once more and continued to degrade until they disappeared into nothing before the woman. Even the battle souls from Magic Arsenal went back into the 18 Hell Celestial Sealing Stamp. All of this was done in an instant, and Wang Lin's expression changed greatly. His fist had lost the storm around it, but still closed in on the woman in white. The woman in white's expression was calm, and her eyes were cold. Another ball of light appeared in her hand, and she threw it directly at Wang Lin. Source Origin. Wang Lin clearly felt that there was a sliver of Source Origin inside that ball of light. Only Source Origin could cause the 3 spells to collapse like that. If it touched him, even though he had the body of an ancient god, he would collapse. During this moment of crisis, Wang Lin's third eye suddenly opened. As the ball of light closed in, a sharp red light came out of the third eye. The power of the third eye was released completely. The moment the third eye opened, the red light opened up like a fan and covered the ball of light. Then the Source Origin inside the third eye slowly came out. This was the first time Wang Lin had battled with the Source Origin energy inside his third eye. Although the red light looked peaceful, it was extremely dangerous. The moment the red light came out of Wang Lin's third eye, the expression of the woman in white changed for the first time. The ball of light dissipated at a rapid rate under the red light. However, as it dissipated, the bit of remaining Source Origin energy within Wang Lin's third eye also rapidly dissipated, as if they were canceling each other out. This process only lasted an instant, but it felt like thousands of years for Wang Lin. After the ball of light dissipated, Wang Lin quickly retreated, then the dim red light disappeared and the third eye closed. The clothes on his back were soaked in cold sweat as Wang Lin retreated. The woman in white didn't change, but her eyes became serious, and she slowly said, "Ancient God, Baifan's celestial spells, Source Origin energy. Who are you?" Wang Lin dreaded the woman in white a lot, but he had to break through and enter the cave. At this moment, Wang Lin's mind trembled, and he remembered the strange expression the old man had after seeing the stop spell. Wang Lin rarely gambled in his life, but right now he had to gamble. If I fail, then I can only escape to find ancient demon Beilu to help me break through this celestial cave. No matter what, I must enter. Wang Lin clenched his teeth as he lifted his hand and pointed. The stop spell suddenly appeared. The moment the woman in white saw the stop spell, her expression changed. Wang Lin's eyes lit up and he decided to slap his bag of holding. The celestial pagoda appeared, and Xianxia's corpse floated between Wang Lin and the woman in white. It was as if the woman in white was struck by lightning. It's time to double the likes for the VIDEO, wishing for more likes for the VIDEO. Chapter 1009. Whose statue? As the woman stared at Xianxia's body, her body trembled. After a long time, she closed her eyes, but the trembling of her eyelashes couldn't conceal the shock in her heart. Wang Lin had his heart at his throat as he closely watched the change in the woman's expression. He was gambling that this woman would recognize the stop spell and that she would recognize Xianxia. Although it was the perfect time to launch a sneak attack, Wang Lin didn't do any of this. This woman gave Wang Lin a powerful sense of crisis. When she used that sliver of Source Origin, Wang Lin was terrified. Though Master Flamespark had the aura of Source Origin, even he couldn't use it. However, this woman had actually used Source Origin, which was unimaginable to Wang Lin. When facing this kind of enemy, it was pointless to launch a sneak attack. The surroundings were completely quiet, with only the faint fragrance of the flowers and the petals falling forming a sea of petals. Time slowly passed as the two pondered. After 15 minutes, the woman in white opened her eyes and looked at Xianxia's body. She opened her mouth as if she wanted to speak. However, just at this moment, there were a loud rumble from far away in the cave. During this moment of silence, that sound was extremely harsh. At the same time, cursing slowly came from the distance. "Run? No treasure I have my eyes on can escape," Zitunan's arrogant voice echoed as he chased after a ray of white light. There was a small bottle inside that white light. This bottle was made of white jade. From a distance, it gave off a mellow light as if it was a fat sheep. Zitunnan emitted a black gas that surrounded him as he chased after the small bottle. Seeing the small bottle running faster, Zitunan's hand formed a seal and black mist appeared before the bottle. the black mist turned into a fierce beast that attempted to devour the small bottle. The small bottle suddenly stopped at the moment the fierce jumped at it, and the bottle shattered into countless fragments. The fragments pierced through the beast and reformed on the other end. Then it sped up and flew forward. Situnan's eyes lit up as he laughed and chased after it once more. As the treasure ran from Situnan, they quickly closed in on Wang Lin and the woman in white. Wang Lin's eyes shined an indiscernible amount. The white bottle was very fast and shot toward the woman in white. The woman in white frowned as she waved her jade-like hand. The bottle gently landed in her hand. However, as soon as the woman in white grabbed the small bottle, it suddenly shattered into countless pieces and flew toward her. Situnan's body flickered and he shouted, "Wang Lin, let us go." Wang Lin didn't hesitate to retrieve Qing Shuang and the pagoda when the bottle landed in the woman's hand. Then he retreated like a bolt of lightning. Situnan's face revealed a fierce expression, and both of his hands formed a seal. Then his hand pressed down and he shouted, "Celestial spell, spatial crack." As his voice echoed, a distortion appeared in the space before them. Popping sounds echoed and countless vortexes appeared from nowhere and flew at the woman in white. Taking this opportunity, Situnan quickly retreated and charged toward the entrance of the cave with Wang Lin. The shattered pieces of the white bottle rushed at the woman's face. However, with just one glare, the fragments stopped mid-air. With a calm expression, she walked forward. The countless vortexes formed by Situnan's celestial spell spatial crack rushed forward, but they strangely went through the woman in white. They didn't cause her to slow down at all. "Do you not want to enter the cave?" the woman in white slowly asked as she walked. Although her voice was still cold, there was no killing intent within it. As Wang Lin retreated, a hint of hesitation appeared in his eyes. He stopped and stared at the woman in white. Situnan frowned and also stopped. Earlier, he had left by himself to search for treasures, but he soon noticed the crisis Wang Lin was facing. In particular, Master Hollow Wind and others' disappearance shocked him. However, with Wang Lin here, he couldn't escape on his own, so he risked coming here to create an opportunity to escape. At the moment he saw Wang Lin stop, Situnan also stopped without hesitation. He coldly stared at the woman in white that was closing in. Wang Lin clasped his hands and calmly asked, "Is Senior allowing us to enter?" The woman in white pondered for a long time before letting out a sigh. She turned around toward the palace and said, "Follow me." With that, the woman in white floated toward the palace. Wang Lin pondered a bit before glancing at Situnan. Situnan's eyes lit up and he slowly said, "This person is somewhat strange. If you want to follow, then the two of you can leave. Your companions will be waiting for you outside." The woman's faint voice came from the palace. Her figure had already arrived outside the palace and entered the darkness of the palace with a single step. Thinking of the change in the woman's expression, Wang Lin's eyes filled with determination and he slowly said, "Situ, I am going in by myself." Situnan naturally knew that if both of them entered and anything happened, they'd have no way to resist. He nodded without saying a word. There was something between him and Wang Lin that didn't need to be explained. It was a kind of trust. Wang Lin didn't say any more. He charged forward and arrived before the palace in the blink of an eye. Then He took a deep breath and stepped into the palace. The palace was completely dark. Not only did this darkness obstruct his vision, it also obstructed his divine sense. He could only spread his divine sense out a few dozen feet around him. Wang Lin could vaguely see few large shadows that were like statues. However, it was too dark, so he couldn't see clearly. This palace was completely quiet aside from the soft footsteps before him that told him the woman in white was gradually walking away. Just at this moment, the footsteps disappeared and a faint voice sounded within the hall. "What is your name?" Wang Lin answered, "Wang Lin." Wang the woman seemed to be talking to herself as she muttered, "He really is named Wang." The palace became silent once more. Although Wang Lin's expression was neutral, he was extremely vigilant. His origin energy filled his body, and if there were any abnormalities, he would retaliate. In addition, the third eye appeared between his eyebrows. Although it wasn't open, the source origin energy inside would spread out with a thought. Wang Lin dreaded the woman in white a lot. He was at the peak of the mid-stage of Nirvana Scryer, and could fight Nirvana Cleanser cultivators with his ancient god body. However, Wang Lin knew that he wasn't a match for this woman. However, There was something he had to do even if it was dangerous. That's just how Wang Lin was. While pondering, the woman seemed to wave her right hand and a ray of light appeared. This light wasn't ordinary. It was like a fire in the darkness, as it quickly lit up the area in a dim glow. Borrowing the dim light, Wang Lin clearly saw what was inside the palace, and he gasped. This palace was like a Taoist temple of the mortals. There was a total 9 statues inside the palace. 8 statues were on the sides, and the one at the center seemed to be carved with various things and gave off a glimmer of gold. However, this golden light was very weak. The moment it appeared, it would be devoured by the darkness. As a result, it could only be kept inside the statue, making the statue give off a strange aura. This was a statue of a middle-aged man. He was very handsome, and his eyes had a profound look. He wore a yellow robe and gave off the aura of a noble. The yellow robe had 9 purple dragons embroidered on it, and revealed their ferocious expressions. Although they were mere images, one could still feel their unimaginable fierceness. In addition, there were carved clouds that filled the background. However, these clouds weren't white, but black. These black clouds made the middle-aged man look very dignified. When Wang Lin looked at the middle-aged man, he felt a buzz in his mind, and an unimaginable aura smashed into his body. This aura was the strongest aura Wang Lin had ever felt. Whether it was Qing Shui, Master Flame Spark, or the All-Seer, their auras were far weaker. Even the mysterious third-step elder from Al-Heaven was a bit weaker. This aura was so powerful, it created an invisible impact. Only one look from Wang Lin made his body tremble, causing him to cough out blood. He quickly retreated and wanted to use his origin energy, only to discover that, to his horror, his origin energy had retreated. It had shrank back as if it was afraid to appear before this power. There was an invisible pressure that caused the origin energy inside Wang Lin's body to be suppressed by force the moment it moved. No matter how much his origin energy struggled, it was pointless. The world's origin energy had to yield before this statue. Wang Lin was frightened. At this moment, he could only hear his heart rapidly beating. It was as if his blood had stopped flowing, but the next moment, all his blood rushed toward his heart. Wang Lin had never encountered this kind of situation in his more than 1,300 years of cultivation, but now was not the time to think about it. His origin energy couldn't be used, and the blood flowing inside his body made him tremble. An unimaginable pressure wanted to make him kneel and yield to the might of this statue. Wang Lin's eyes shined red as he let out a roar and his ancient god power erupted. Ancient gods didn't respect the heavens or follow Tao. They walked against the heavens. It was part of the ancient order. As usual, 2 chapters at noon, about 10 minutes apart, and 2 more at 8 in the evening, 10 minutes apart. If anything comes up, the other will be informed, longing for the like button for the video. You are listening to a completely free audiobook on the Leo Audio YouTube channel. If you enjoy the story, please like the video to motivate the channel. Support Leo with a cup of coffee through the description link or on the screen. If you want to hear any other stories, just comment and let Leo know. Thank you very much for watching the video. Chapter 1010 Flower Imperial Concubine. How could a mere statue make an ancient god yield? As his ancient god power filled his body, Wang Lin stood up straight. His eyes were like lightning as he met the gaze of the statue for a second time. He felt a rumbling in his mind that spread across his body. While his body trembled, his eyes revealed an unyielding gaze. There is nothing that can make ancient gods yield. The heavens can the laws of the world can and you also can The ancient god stars rapidly rotated between Wang Lin's eyebrows, and popping sound could be heard from inside his body. Although he didn't grow into his true ancient god form, the strength of his body increased rapidly. His powerful body allowed more ancient god power to fill him. Wang Lin was able to stand there like mountain as an unyielding aura erupted from his body. This aura resisted the suppression the statue released. Silent ripples echoed, forming a storm that swept through the hall, causing Wang Lin to retreat once more. Wang Lin let out a roar as he struggled to stop while he stared at the statue. At this moment, he had the illusion that the statue was alive and was coldly looking at him. Roar! Wang Lin suddenly raised his head, and the roar of an ancient god was released. All life had to back down before the roar of the ancient gods. None of them were qualified to stand before it. When he let out the roar, the entire cave began to rumble as if it couldn't withstand this roar. At the same time, Wang Lin raised his foot and mercilessly took a step forward. Although this step was simple, it was very difficult for Wang Lin. When facing this unimaginable pressure and aura that could make one collapse, the only path was to retreat. However, to retreat was to yield, and if he couldn't reverse the situation, he would have completely yielded. The ancient gods dared to defy the heavens and Tao. If he were to yield to this mere statue, Wang Lin wouldn't be qualified to be a real ancient god. With that one step, Wang Lin could hear the terrifying sounds of things shattering inside his body. Taking this step meant that he was directly confronting that pressure and discarding any room for negotiation. However, this was what the ancient god inheritance within Wang Lin wanted. Retreating 10 steps, 100 steps, or even standing still and struggling while not losing was still too weak-willed. This will determine that the Tao you walked could only follow the will of the heavens. However, talking one step was very different. This meant rebellion. This meant defying. After this step, the pressure from the statue increased several-fold. It was as if countless mountains had smashed down on Wang Lin, not allowing him to resist. Blood sprayed out of the pores in his back, but he took another step forward. I, Wang Lin, am a heaven-defying cultivator. I dare to defy the heavens and fate, so how could I back down here? Wang Lin's step was like walking upstream and angering the heavens. An even more powerful pressure crashed down on him. A seeker of Tao could be born at dawn and die by sunset. A heaven-defying cultivator has a defiant heart. What is there to fear? It is merely death. Under this unimaginable pressure, blood sprayed out from Wang Lin's body. He was covered in blood, but he laughed. His laughter was filled with an unyielding aura. The current Wang Lin had a clear mind as all useless thoughts were thrown away. The only thing in his mind was the word defy. Back then, he defied the heavens in the demon spirit land to reach the ascendant stage. Here, he faced the pressure once more in the demon spirit land. The defying nature that was sealed by Wang Lin and suppressed during his time at All Heaven bloomed once more. Everything was like karma. While he laughed, Wang Lin took another step. The moment he took the third step, the pressure in the palace disappeared as if it never existed. The woman in white stared at Wang Lin from under the statue and revealed a complex emotion. Only Wang Lin's laughter echoed in the palace and slowly dissipated. The moment he saw the statue, he guessed who the person was. The person's appearance was somewhat similar to Xianxia's. Also, only one person could have a mere statue give off such a powerful pressure. Celestial Emperor Qing Lin. Wang Lin's back was soaked in sweat. The danger he felt just before was unprecedented. If not for the power of the ancient gods, he would have immediately exploded and died. There was a trace of coldness in Wang Lin's gaze as he looked at the woman in white. The woman in white lowered her head and softly said, "You have passed the test." Wang Lin calmly asked, "Who are you?" "One of the 8 imperial concubines, Flower Imperial Concubine Hanyan." The woman looked at the statue. Her eyes were filled with a gentle gaze and a deep sense of love. "Reveal character." She let out a sigh and waved her jade-like hand. The ground trembled and the floor tiles shook and floated into the air. It was as if a strange force had filled the area, causing all the floor tiles to fly into the air. They formed a strange formation between Wang Lin and the woman in white. Without the floor tiles, the floor showed the starry sky. The darkness was filled with countless nebulae and dazzling stars. What was even more incredible was that the stars weren't static, but slowly moving. This caused Wang Lin's eyes to narrow. This demon spirit land is a celestial cave, and it drifts in space via a special method. What you see is no an illusion but reality. Enter this transfer array and you can enter the sealed land. If you have the ability to open it, you can enter the real celestial cave. Is that celestial cave where Celestial Emperor Qing Lin is? Wang Lin's gaze moved from the stars to the formation made by the floor tiles. The woman in white silently pondered and looked at the statue. After a long time, she softly said, "When he came back, he was already injured. Then he was attacked by 2 lowly outsiders. After he returned, he activated the celestial cave to heal. Originally, there was no entrance, but then he created 4 entrances. If all 4 entrances are opened, a true entrance will appear in the demon spirit land to where he is under closed-door cultivation. You have the stop spell, Qing Shuang's corpse, and are named Wang, so I1T stop you after you enter the transfer array. Your companions will appear in your mind." The woman let out a sigh as she turned around and walked into the depth of the hall. Wang Lin looked at her figure that was filled with loneliness and melancholy. Wang Lin quickly asked, "What do you mean by named Wang?" "If there is a chance, you will find out the voice of the woman in white was weak as she slowly sank into the darkness." Wang Lin looked at the distance and quickly said, "With Senior S power, Y1T you come with me." The woman in white that had half entered the darkness suddenly stopped. Her back was facing Wang Lin when she revealed a bitter expression and softly said, "I can go." As she spoke, her body completely entered the darkness and disappeared. The woman in white appeared within the depths of the palace where Wang Lin couldn't perceive her. The bitter expression on her face was still there. She gave off a white glow, but this white light merged with the darkness, so no one outside could see it. The woman gradually stopped moving and an azure light spread across her feet. Soon it covered her body and she disappeared in a flash. What replaced her was an extremely beautiful flower that bloomed in the depths of the hall. The flower Imperial Concubine is already dead. The only thing that remains is a flower celestial that can leave this cave. The flower bloomed, but there was a feeling of sadness as this beauty bloomed in the darkness where no one could see it. While Wang Lin pondered, he looked at the transfer array before him and stepped inside. However, the moment he approached, his gaze fell on the darkness in the distance as if he had spotted something. He entered the transfer array and it began to shine. Then Wang Lin's figure disappeared inside. When he reappeared, he was in an illusory space, and a large formation was carved into the ground. There was a large black stone at the center. After carefully observing his surroundings, Wang Lin entered the large formation and arrived next to the black stone. A moment later, he slapped his bag of holding, and the key to the celestial cave that he obtained flew out. The moment it flew out, it turned into green smoke and entered the black stone. In an instant, light came from the large formation. One by one, the runes floated into the air and filled the area. The formation slowly became active. The moment the formation activated, a subtle connection appeared between the formation and Wang Lin. He felt his vision blur, then he saw everything within the fourth cave. It was as if the entire cave was in his mind. With one thought, he could break any restriction and control everything. Except he had no control over the palace. He saw Situ Nan and Master Hollow Wind and company, who had disappeared under the sea of flowers. With a thought, Master Hollow Wind, the three Chen brothers, Big Head, and Leiji disappeared. Situ Nan stood there frowning. Ever since Wang Lin had disappeared, he had been on guard, and a cold light flashed across his eyes. Just at this moment, Situ Nan's expression changed as he felt a divine sense sweep past him. This divine sense was very familiar. Wang Lin! Situ Nan's body disappeared after Wang Lin's divine sense swept by. When he reappeared, he was next to the large formation. The cave has been opened completely. Leiji, your cultivation is lacking, so wait here for us to return. As Wang Lin's voice echoed, the formation on the ground began to flash. At the same time, a shocking change occurred in the demon spirit land. Mid-month already, brothers. Do you have likes for the VIDE already? Don't hold back, wishing for those likes. Chapter 1011. Celestial Spirit Heaven Realm. There was a vast plain in the northern part of the demon spirit land. At this moment, a mysterious change occurred in the sky above the plain. The clouds began to gather from all directions, covered the sky in a sea of clouds. There were whistling sounds coming from the sky in the distance. Then a pillar of light came out from the plain. This pillar seemed to support the sky of the demon spirit land, and a thunderous rumble came from it. As it continued to rise, a large amount of ripples carrying powerful impacts spread out and caused the clouds to retreat. As a result, this pillar of light pierced through the heavens. It turned into rings of light that slowly spread across the sky. The moment the pillar of light appeared, rich celestial spiritual energy spread out and covered almost 30% of the demon spirit land. There were a few ugly black birds that flew by and were swept by the celestial spiritual energy by coincidence. The black birds' bodies trembled, and then large amounts of black gas came out from their bodies and dissipated. After the black gas was gone, the black birds suddenly changed into white cranes. They let out joyful cries, and their eyes filled with intelligence as they flew away in a beautiful arc. The demon spirit land was filled with demonic energy, which was the source of energy for the inhabitants to cultivate. At this moment, a shocking scene unfolded in the sky. The demonic energy that filled the demon spirit land collided with the celestial spiritual energy that appeared. There were fierce collisions as, like fire and water, the two wouldn't mix, causing a strange change to occur. However, the demonic energy here was too strong, and the celestial spiritual energy from one pillar wasn't enough. It was soon suppressed by the surrounding demonic energy. However, as even more celestial spiritual energy came out from the pillar, it was finally able to cover the surrounding 50 kilometers. There was enough celestial spiritual energy to prevent the demonic energy from suppressing it completely. Everything in the 50-kilometer space was filled with celestial spiritual energy, while the outside was full of demonic energy. A balance was reached where celestial spiritual energy couldn't expand, but demonic energy couldn't invade. Just at this moment, Ling Tianhu, the middle-aged man in purple, and the famous Master Void were sitting in the center of the formation in the third cave. Ling Tianhu's eyes opened and shined brightly. Without hesitation, his right hand reached out, and a crack appeared. Large amounts of green smoke came out of the crack, and the key to the cave slowly appeared. It only took him 7 days to open the fourth cave. I had already overestimated Wang Lin, but it seems I was still looking down on him. I spent nearly 1 month opening the third cave. Ling Tianhu pondered as his right pointed at the black stone at the center of the formation below him. The smoke immediately surrounded the black stone and went inside it. Then the black stone trembled and the formation activated. Launch I. In western part of the demon spirit land, the land that belonged to the spirit demon country. At this moment, the sky changed colors and a pillar of light shot up into the air. As the pillar of light shot up, waves of impacts began to spread outwards endlessly. The pillar shot into the sky along with a loud rumble. Dense celestial spiritual energies spread out and began another collision with the demonic energy in the demon spirit land. At this moment, the pillars from the north and west seemed to resonate with each other as they flashed violently. Their power increased as they attempted to break the 50-kilometer barrier and expand outward. At the same time, another pillar of light shot into the sky in the south. Even more celestial spiritual energy erupted, and another battle between celestial and demonic energy began. The All-Seer was sitting inside the second cave, looking at the formation with a calm gaze. However, there was a strange, almost indiscernible light that flashed across his eyes. 7 days the All-Seer silently pondered. It was impossible to tell what he was thinking or feeling. 3 pillars of light appeared one after another in the demon spirit land, attracting the attention of the powerhouses in the demon spirit land. The drastic change in demonic energy caused them to panic. The demon spirit land that hadn't changed for countless years was undergoing an unimaginable change when the 3 pillars of light appeared. The celestial spiritual energy that spread out from the 3 pillars seemed to begin 3 battles against the demonic energy. Aside from the east, the rest of the sky above the demon spirit land was filled with colorful lights. However, there was simply too much demonic energy that had gathered over the countless years. As a result, the celestial spiritual energy of the 3 pillars wasn't enough to shake the demon spirit land. Inside the first cave, the celestial cloud cultivation pair quietly stood within the large formation. Although Wang Wei looked calm, there was a hint of unsuppressible excitement in his eyes. He took a deep breath and muttered, "This day, the day we waited for, has finally arrived." Hu Huan stood beside him, holding Wang Wei's hand, and softly said, "We will succeed this time. We planned for so long. We must succeed this time." Wang Wei nodded. There was a purple shadow behind them. It gave off a fierce aura and vaguely revealed an aura Wang Lin would be very familiar with. The demon spirit land, who knew that this place used to be called the celestial spirit heaven realm. Wang Wei let out a sigh and pointed his right hand toward the black stone in the formation. The black stone flashed and the formation activated. The demonic energy is like a poison. Today, let its true form reappear. Wang Wei's eyes shined brightly. "Make yours." A pillar of light shot up straight into the sky in the eastern part of the demon spirit land. Along with it, endless celestial spiritual energy spread out. At this instant, the 4 pillars of light from the east, south, west, and north changed. It was as if they had linked together to form a giant formation. Large amounts of celestial spiritual energy rushed out, and now it was several times stronger than before. It created a storm of celestial spiritual energy that swept across the demon spirit land. As the celestial spiritual energy swept across the dark red land, it was as if a layer of dust was wiped off, revealing the healthy black earth. The various plants sprout new life as the storm swept by. The celestial storm swept through the dense jungle. The monstrous trees in the demonic jungle trembled, and all returned to their original forms as towering trees. Even some of the monsters inside the jungle trembled when the celestial spiritual energy storm swept by. At this moment, there was a black tiger with a single horn on its head laying low, and its eyes were shining. It was staring ahead with slobber in the corner of its mouth. Before it stood a group of demonic deer. The deer were purple and were tearing each other apart without any hint of being docile. Just as the black tiger was about to pounce, the celestial spiritual energy storm swept by. It was as if a storm had swept away all the demonic energy. Without the demonic energy, the ground was no longer red and became green once more. The deer that were biting each other all tumbled on the ground. The purple of their bodies faded, revealing their original colors, and they gave off a celestial feeling. The black tiger that was going to pounce trembled and let out a roar. The horn on its head shattered, and its black fur turned white. It was filled with celestial spiritual energy, and then the fierceness was gone and was replaced with intelligence. As the celestial spiritual energy storm swept by, the demonic jungle changed completely. From a distance, it looked like the celestial realm. Although the river outside the jungle looked clear, it was filled with demonic energy. If one drank it for too long, demonic energy would gather and change their physique. Even the fishes in the river became strange with the invasion of demonic energy. A fish the size of your palm had sharp teeth that could easily tear mortals to pieces. However, the moment the celestial spiritual energy swept by, it was as if a layer of fog had swept by. The river became even more clear and gave off a refreshing feeling. Even the water itself contained a hint of dry sweetness. The fishes inside trembled and changed from their hideous appearances into very colorful appearances. Then the fishes began playing inside the river. If you look from above, you would clearly see that the entire demon spirit land was changing as the celestial spiritual energy swept by. It was as if the world should be like this, but something that happened countless years ago caused this place to become a demonic land. Now the four pillars of light were releasing celestial spiritual energy that quickly cleansed the demonic energy from this land. The darkness on the ground melted like snow as light replaced it. The demonic energy that filled the place was quickly pushed away. It was as if the demon spirit land had been covered in a veil of demonic energy, and now it was mercilessly removed, exposing its true form. I awaits. All the cities and tribes of the demon spirit land were swept by this demonic energy. Every single person's face was filled with pain as they fell down, unable to stand still. Demonic energy came out of their bodies and was dissipated by the celestial spiritual energy. All the demonic energy that had been stored up for years was now all gone. Now that they had regained consciousness, there was no longer any demonic energy left inside their bodies. Instead, it was replaced with a refreshing feeling and confusion. As the four pillars continued to release celestial spiritual energy, it slowly filled the world. As it swept across the land, even the sky brightened up. All the demonic energy seemed to dissipate under this rich celestial spiritual energy. From a distance, it was filled with green mountains and clear rives. The cranes flew in the air, and the cries of spirit beasts were heard. There were no longer any demonic beasts left. Celestial spirit heaven realm. However, there were still a few places where the demonic energy lingered in the restored celestial spirit heaven realm. No matter how much celestial spiritual energy rushed into the area, the demonic energy wouldn't move. In a valley in the celestial spirit heaven realm, there was a pool of water. A demonic face appeared in the pool. He looked at the celestial spiritual energy that had swept by, and his eyes released a demonic glow. Mid-month and it's been forgotten. Hoping for the like button for the video, tears start to flow. Is there still time?